Hello everyone, it's 2024 and we are back aggressively, apparently, throwing our controversial opinions right into your ear holes and across the internet. Welcome to another episode of the When It Is You podcast. For those new around these parts, think of us as your new video game book club pals, hailing from both ends of the United Kingdom, offering a deep dive into a different game just about every other week. We talk ins, outs, ups, downs, and every so often we stumble into something meaningful or interesting. This week, I struggled there because I was like, so one thing I have a problem, right, Alex, is if I know what I'm going to say, fine, I can say it. If I know what I'm going to say or I know what I'm about to read and it doesn't match what I'm expected to read, i.e. I've put a typo in there, it trips me the fuck up every single time. Because part of my brain goes, just go with it. You've obviously written it down so it'll make sense eventually. But then you're like, no, this doesn't make any sense at all whatsoever. But we're just going to carry on. This week, according to our timeline, we've already discussed it on Game of the Year podcast. But on your timeline, we will be talking about it soon. We are back with another Remedy game. This time in the form of Alan Wake 2. Settle in, folks. This one's a doozy. And, as usual, while you get your ears accustomed to our accents, my name remains David, and sitting, I don't know, Alan Wake,
I'm in the dark place.
The dark place.
You're really in the dark place.
It's dark and cold. Yeah, I'm in the dark place. Across from me, sitting in my dark place across from me, is my partner in crime, Mr. Alex Aldridge. How you doing today, Alex? Tired, exhausted?
I'm tired for upsetting everybody on Twitter.
You've only upsetted the Sega crew, which apparently is the angriest crew. I was trying to think of like the odd time. I once put under a GameSpot Instagram post talking about the Mario remasters. You know how they did it wasn't a remaster. They shat out the old 3D Mario games in a collection. And I put under a GameSpot post that it was lazy, and I just had Nintendo hell brought upon me. just a bunch of nerds coming at me, just giving me absolute abuse, saying that I know nothing and that it's amazing, it's the best remaster ever made.
Holy shit. Right. One of the ones that I found really funny is that someone was like, oh, were you born in the mid-2000s? As if, which is like...
Is that a dig?
Sadly not. Now, obviously, even though people are accusing us of bait, just because I put out a picture that took me a couple of hours to make. Yeah. I could have been playing Spider-Man 2 last night, but no, I made a fucking shitty PNG of all the consoles in a row in a grid of numbers.
Let's get some more hate on you.
Right. So people are claiming that we're like trying to get social media engagement. I genuinely thought nobody would look at it. I didn't think people cared about anything that we do apart from
a great job,
our
buddy.
Corner of the internet. And I can guarantee that nobody is coming to this episode based off of seeing that image. But if you are here for that and you want to hear like my reaction to it, you know all those consoles in that list. I've got every fucking single one of them, right? I've got games for all of them, and I've played all of them a lot for like 30 odd years. So I know more than you do. So fuck off. Come and show me. Look, if everyone's watching the video, look, they're all up there, you fucking cunts. They're all there. Look. There's a Saturn. I don't hate it. It's plugged into a television. Right? So if you're listening to this, I'm better than you, and you know it.
You're right. This is your Jim Sterling moment. You're going full Jim Sterling here.
Did he do that, did he?
I don't know. He's just going wild, telling everyone to fuck themselves, I feel like. Or it's usually big companies he tells to fuck himself. I don't know if this will make you feel better or worse, but I think I broke my personal record, accidentally. Not that it's something I even pay attention to or even try. Last Saturday, I was in the house, and what was I doing? I think I was having a glass of wine, and I was like, I don't know why, but I really want to watch the new Gladiators show. So
okay,
I stuck it on, and I was watching it. I was like, I'm sorry, I'm having such a good time watching this, and I hate to admit it. So I put on Twitter, I tweeted, I can't believe I'm saying this because this type of show is generally not my thing, but the comeback of Gladiators on BBC could not be more welcome. I love it. Hashtag Gladiators. It's currently sitting at 285 likes.
Oh wow!
and 38,100 views. And I was like, And so I was just kind of watching it, just like out of like a weird morbid interest. I was like, right, I've been talking about video on and well, maybe not so much on Twitter, but I've been podcasting and discussing video games for more than a decade now. And me just farting out a tweet about the Gladiators with a GIF under it has had much more attention than any of my stuff ever has. And then I was just like reading something. I was like, oh no, because it sort of hit that moment where just people start commenting under it. And it's my favourite one is from a man called Joshua Martin Price. So that you've heard my tweet. His response to that is, "Strong men lack good speed and movement control." Like I was arguing that they didn't. So I was like, "Who is this man?" So I went on his on his Twitter, and his tweets are, "The essence to living is death. The essence to living is dying. Spiritual success is personal interpretation. The road to spiritual success is paved with bad and good intentions." And they go on and on and on like this. So this man is just, I don't know, he's on a one-man Twitter war with himself. The other one was
life.
The other like sort of funny one was Becky Green. She was saying she watched it in the 90s, and that no doubt the BBC are now flooded with complaints about gladiators being dressed inappropriately nowadays. And I was like, I'm not even getting involved in this. You'll be shouting about Brexit in a moment, so I'm just going to move on.
There's every, I've largely either not used Twitter or I've basically curated it to just be like gaming news websites, and I don't read the comments. So there's a lot of times where I just kind of was like, didn't see what was so bad about it, but every now and again you have a glimpse.
Fucking hole, man.
So I want to make it very clear to all the listeners to this podcast, if you've followed us by listening to this podcast, so therefore you've already listened to the console ranking episode and you're back to hear more, you are my kind of people. I like you. That rant earlier was not aimed at you.
It's for the people that aren't paying attention.
It's aimed at dickheads who just saw a picture and thought we were the worst human beings alive because the Wii U is higher than the Saturn.
I mean,
I like it more.
We are quite low on the list of worst human beings, or high on the list of bad human beings. Yeah, that'll do.
Somebody said to me, in one of the tweets, he said something like, "Enjoy your newfound infamy."
He's infamous.
I'm infamous because I like the Xbox 360.
Great game, by the way. Good game.
Yeah. No, it's not. Actually, no, it's fine.
It's all right. That was like during the era of that. Like we just got like a splurge of sort of open world runners, and that was one of the better ones. Prototype was the other one, and is there another one?
Crackdown was a good one.
Crackdown was a good one. Yeah.
Earlier. Mm-hmm. But yes, of course, I don't mean any of the hate. It's just very funny how insane people are about just like not anything nothing in the post that we put said that anything was bad. It just was like, here's what we like in order.
Regularly say on this podcast, because we don't make any money about this, we only play things we like.
There was I can't remember what it was. It must have been to do with the GameCube. I think that's one of the things where you were like, yeah, but it's our list, so fuck it, who cares? And you're right. And at the end of the day, that is the essence of everything we do. It's our opinion, so fuck it. If you're listening to us and you've continued to do so, thanks, because you obviously don't mind our opinions. And
if you're genuinely shook by any of our opinions, one, get a grip and just accept that some people have different opinions from you, and two, just go away. Nobody's making you listen to this. It's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, but at least tell us that you've listened to this before you shout at us. Don't just do it based off of a picture. I
am so up for it if people listen and have a different opinion and want to discuss it with us. I'm all up for that. All up for that.
Totally. You have a right to reply to the podcast.
It's just irritating that you put in effort on this thing and then you just get.
Podcast took so long. It was 3.5 hours. It probably took me 2 days to edit that, and no one's going to listen to it based off of the picture I made. They're just going to go, "Oh, you're a fucking idiot. Why do you think the N64 is so good?" Because I do. Because it made me very happy as a child. Why would you not? Why would you hate me for that? It's like I've just finally discovered that the internet has bad people on it or something. It's like I'm shook. I gave way too many people way too much of a sort of considered answer. Like none of them deserved it.
No.
Some of them came back round again, and others just would not let it go. Sega-holic needs to. I think I said something about his Sega-holism has broken his brain when he said that the Saturn had a better library than the N64.
That is, yeah.
He did not like that. He went, "Let's keep it civil." All right, calm down, mate. keep it civil. Sorry, in what sense? Sorry, Ocarina of Time isn't better than everything on the Saturn. You're right. Let's keep it civil. Don't let's not commit hate crimes. I'm very sorry that I think that GoldenEye is better than I don't know. I haven't got any bad Saturn games to pull to hand.
The Myst version of the
I love
Sega
that
Saturn
you just
version of Myst is not good.
I wonder what's better actually. Resident Evil 2 is not even on the Saturn. I wonder why. Is it because it was like smashing sales records and was like a juggernaut? No, they didn't make it for the Saturn because no one bought a Saturn. Seriously though, the Saturn is very fun, and everyone should grab a Saturn. As I said on the podcast, burn a bunch of fucking CDs, CDRs of like all the good Saturn games, all the Japanese ones.
I'm doing it one day.
We've got some brilliant shit on there. And that was the very key point of our podcast, is that apart from me not really liking the Master System and you having no opinion on the Mega CD, we like every single one of the other ones.
Yeah.
We like all of them.
I
have them.
If you're a sort of a longer term listener to this podcast as well, on several occasions I will bring up the jungle level of Sonic on the Sega Master System. Yeah. I will fight you. It is up there with the best music in Sonic. I just don't understand why he's got brown shoes. Every other Sonic has red shoes.
I mean, I'm not going to fight anybody. I didn't expect we'd have to, but apparently we did. I just thought, I'll just shut this up. Nobody will care, but I'm doing it because I always do it. For everything, that's it. That's what it was. Like, nobody cares that I wrote a Simpsons game review in a magazine and did about 50 Simpsons quotes and that seamlessly wove their way into the narrative of the review. No one cares about that. They just care that the Wii U is higher than the Saturn.
I hope some of them only play the Saturn. That's it. They just
probably do.
Yeah.
It was just so funny how one of them was like acting as if we're spreading negativity and that we need to celebrate the Saturn more to educate younger people.
Podcast. We had a great time.
Yeah. Like, don't say bad things about the Saturn. Don't say it was a disaster. That means people won't go back and learn and educate themselves on the Saturn. I don't think it will have any effect on any of it.
No.
You know what's effect? No. I can't think of a segue to Alan Wake 2. So what I will say is, if you have terminal cancer, don't get a Sega Saturn ever. Just play Alan Wake 2 instead.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you've nailed that.
That's just
I was trying to think of an analogy, but then I couldn't remember what they're called. You know, like the shadow people in the dark place. That's a bit like Twitter. Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Because you don't know which ones are real. They're mostly fake.
Oh yeah, in the yeah. Oh, we had a couple. Oh yeah, we obviously had a couple of porn bots get involved with.
Excellent.
I still actually don't know how that works. Like, I
remember
don't know
we were
how.
randomly getting everything. Was it you, me, and Joel were having a conversation? Everything we said got liked by someone like called Marjorie or something like that. Just like this innocuous name.
Yeah. It's so weird, but different surnames, but all called like Emma something or something like that, or Emily. I just don't get it. I don't get how that works. I wonder if I think because I've reported them as spam, like I can't even read them back now. But it would be stuff like, OMG, Xbox 360 #1, crazy, Mega Drive though that rules. I love me some Wii, and then it would be like. onlyfans.com /
yeah, you do like some Wii, don't you?
So yeah, so it's like, have you written that? Like, do these porn bots actually write that, or is that AI? Is it an AI bot that then picks like certain things from what I've said?
What's the purpose though? These like I wonder if they're active OnlyFans accounts.
Because it had to. Well, they have no followers either. Like they follow like 10,000 people, and they have like 6 followers, and 5 of them are probably their other bot accounts. But like, how does it pick up what was in the picture? Because I didn't say the words.
Well, did you
of
know
those consoles? No. Or maybe I did. Maybe I did. Actually, maybe I did. I did write the words Xbox 360 and Mega. Yeah, maybe it did just copy the words. Then I'm almost fascinated by how porn bots have suddenly just become relevant. Like they've taken parts of what we've said and made it look as if it's a real response. There must be AI.
It's got to be AI, yeah.
It has to be AI, because before it would just be like, oh, hey babes, I love what you're doing in the space.
Yeah.
keep being on the
Yeah.
internet, check out my tits. And now it's like, oh my God, you're so wrong about the N64. I've always been much more of a Sega Master System fan. Would you like to see my burger? Like, yeah, it's wild. What is the point in it?
What a time to be
I don't
alive. I tried to move away from Twitter recently and just go onto what's it called, Threads. And I just not as fun. Like every other post is like an advert, and it's the same advert over and over again, trying to sell me the same pair of shoes from the same company. And nobody's using it. It doesn't. Well, certainly with my sort of circles, it is not taken off. It is not.
No, it hasn't. Now, I have actually forgot to mention to you, because I haven't done enough with it yet, and I don't know if I've got the final code that I need. But we are on Blue Sky now.
Oh, excellent!
I haven't posted anything at all.
Is Blue Sky meant to be good?
I have no idea. It just feels like it's got fewer people on it, so ratio wise, the number of psychos will be less.
Yeah,
but you have to wait like a certain amount of time before you can get more codes. So I've got one for this podcast, and then one for me.
Oh, nice one.
So then I'm just waiting to get you the third
I'd
code,
quite like to poke around with it,
and then we'll try Blue Sky for a bit and see if we can stay away from Sandman.
Genuinely, I'm interested in having an alternative to Twitter, because it's such a cesspit these days.
Well, and it's one that's ran by a complete idiot that pays people money for engagements, so people just say outlandish shit. Not us. We said what we think is right, and it was harmless. But I don't think Twitter does anything for us anyway. Like, I don't.
Nah.
I don't think we've ever really gotten anything out of Twitter.
Not that I'm aware of.
For the podcast. I don't know where the listens come from, but I doubt it's there.
No.
I just feel obliged. Like, it just seems to have been always the way to just. Yeah, better put it on Twitter. But I don't know why I do that. I don't know whether I wonder if I just did nothing, if anything would change.
We need to find more people like us and start volunteering ourselves to guest on each other's podcasts. I think that's the way to do it.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're here to talk about Alan Wake 2.
Yeah, fucking what a game. Love it. Absolutely love it.
Talking about top lists of all time. Like I've always kind of tried to have a rule myself, because I feel like there's a bit in the next podcast people are going to listen to it. It sounds like I just absolutely about turn and change my opinion to sit with you, but it's generally not. It's that in previous podcasts I've had a tendency to be like overly hyperbolic and say this is one of the best things I've ever seen, and then as time goes on and I get more distance from a game, I'm like, actually no, it was cool. So I'm just trying to be a bit chilled, but there's like moments in this game that are incredible. Yeah.
And the more I actually take myself out of it and look back at like some of the more individual strands of it, I then think it's even more incredible because of that as well. Like they built a coffee-themed theme park in it.
Yeah.
And had you explore that. And then you went into like a hotel, like a abandoned hotel that had like a cult do a ritualistic murder in it, and you can change how it looks by just typing stuff on a typewriter, and then it changes the entire thing. That's some big time like Insomniac shit in it with the old Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. They pulled that shit right off.
That hotel was fantastic, actually. Had more than it had more than a whiff of Stephen King. What's it called?
Yeah, Shining.
Yeah, The Shining to it.
Yeah,
it's great.
And the like the use of live action in it.
Oh, perfect.
The Remedy have switched that round from being, they had the comic panels in Max Payne, which was, objectively cool as hell. But like stuff like Quantum Break.
Is Quantum Break only on Xbox? I might have to. Yeah. I'm going to have to try it.
Yeah.
So I'm ahead of the game. I've already finished our next game, so I've got a bit of time. I could maybe have a look at it.
Yeah. But that to me just felt like slightly misguided and a bit cheesy. Whereas now,
did you play it? Did you?
The level I played some of it and got
right. Okay, because I've not even touched it.
Some of it. Well, it was like you'd play a level. And forgive me if there are any fans of the game listening, and I've this is an inaccurate assumption, but you would play like a segment of the game, and then it would be like half an hour. You just
be like watching a TV show.
Episode. And I just got so bored of that because it's so badly acted and like underwritten. And and slow paced as well. Whereas now in Alan Wake 2, the way that they've just like almost seamlessly blended it into alongside CG graphics
Was
at
it
times.
talking
And
about kicking the bee's nest and annoying people? Is that not just what it's like playing a Kojima game? Play a little bit gameplay, then sit still for 3 hours, watch cutscenes.
kind of what it's like playing a Yakuza game, to be honest.
Yeah.
And worse still, the ones on the remaster that I was playing on PS5, I just finished Yakuza 4 the other day. You can't even pause them. Some of them are 20 minutes long. You can't pause them.
God.
So it's just like I'm sitting there like like last night. In fact, after I finished work, I just thought, well, I'll just finish the game off, and then cutscene after cutscene after cutscene, and my child needs her dinner, and I'm not making it because I'm watching Yakuza cutscenes.
That's true. That actually, I'm trying to think that. So when I was
Bad
dabbling
man.
in Yakuza, that one, who's it? Majima, the guy with the eye patch.
Yeah.
How have I pulled that out of my arse? Anyway, him. He was. It was when you go to his, or when it like cuts to him when you control him for the first time, and you're in his restaurant / like sleazy lady bar. That cutscene where he's like on his hands and knees because there's a drunk guy, just like apologising, then he ends up on stage. Yeah, that is an absolutely wild. That's a long one.
Yeah, he's like he sort of like turns the other cheek, but at the same time like batters the shit out of him, doesn't he? It's really like stylish. But yeah, that goes on a long time. I think that's because like that was huge amount of fan service. Just like, look how we're going to introduce this iconic character.
Right. Okay.
From before you knew him, like you're going to want to see how we handle the first bit of Majima that you see, and because that was my first game, it was cool. But I imagine if you'd seen him throughout the history of the series all the way up to then, you'd absolutely lose your mind at that.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
I would have thought anyway.
Makes sense.
It's funny because in Yakuza 4, Majima's in it for about 30 seconds. So it's like, this is a spoiler for anyone who's ever going to go play it or hasn't played it. Maybe David, I doubt it though.
May get there one day. I've tried. I mean, I've given Zero a good shot and I was liking it.
Yeah, but I mean, every game is like 70 odd hours, so you're miles off. But yeah, like basically they say to Kiryu, I think it's Kiryu. Yeah, it's Kiryu. Right, okay, some shit's going down now. We need some help. You're gonna have to go and ask Majima to help us. And he's like, yeah, he's the only one who can help us. And then you go to meet up with Majima, and as you get there, he's just getting hauled out of wherever he is by the police. And he gets put in the back of a police car, and he's like, "Sorry, Kiryu, you've got to do it without me." And that's it. That's all he's in the game. I was gutted. I saw an amazing clip that I'm going to send you, and I will put it. No, I'm not going to put it on our Twitter. Fuck off. So people just look for this themselves. But I saw this YouTube video, and it was called like Yakuza moments that are burned into my brain, and it had a clip from the from the Yakuza live action film they did a few.
Have you watched that?
Years ago. I have not, but
You're
there's just a clip of just like this bloke like dressed as Kiryu in his little like grey suit with his turned up collar, and then he sort of just turns around in a hallway, and then halfway out of a door is just Majima with his eye patch, and he just goes Kiryu-chan. And that's it. It was just so terrible. But I may have to watch it now.
You have to. You've put so much time into those, even if it's bad, you've got to see it through.
Yeah, I did start watching the Phoenix Wright film at one point, but that was shit. Anyway, Alan Wake. I want to caveat the fact that the reason we were supposed to have done this like last week on Wednesday, but this is a Tuesday now following, and I was disappointed in how bad my notes were and how difficult I was finding it to concisely retell the story.
Don't blame you.
And I was like, I tried to watch a YouTube video that like had the story explained. So I thought, well, I'll just use that to like remember the key points and then like summarize it. And it was 2.5 hours.
Oh my God.
And I just thought to myself, like, why does anyone listening to this podcast need to hear me talk about the story of Alan Wake? Like, we'll talk about it.
They've probably played it, yeah.
But we are not going to run you through the story, and we're not going to run you through how the game goes. We're just going to chat about how great this game is and why, because I feel like it's just caused me too much stress, and no one needs to hear me tell you the story because you've probably already played it, or if you haven't, I'll spoil it for you anyway. So fuck that.
No, I agree with this. Yeah, feel free to cut this, but yeah, like my view on the podcast is like, hopefully the people listening to it have at least some sort of point of reference for the game. So they don't need us to run through beat by beat by beat by beat. They just want us to chat about the game and be enthusiastic about it or shit on it if it's bollocks.
Yeah, somebody said to me, like, oh, you don't... Was it KDB? It was like, oh, you don't need to worry about that. Just talk about how great it is for 2 hours. Someone said that to me.
Yeah, maybe him, yeah.
It might have been Pikmin Guy.
Yes, Pikmin Guy.
be really annoyed now that we recorded the Game of the Year episode like last week and it's not coming out till like next week because he's like, when do I get to hear you talk about me being the Pikmin guy?
Spoiler alert! It's Pikmin is not our game of the year.
No, it might be. He might be. I am getting it for my birthday, so
Yeah,
he was happy when I told him that.
And as long as he knows, it's your responsibility to relay how much of a worthwhile game that is to play. Because on my own, I am not playing Pikmin, but if you suddenly become Pikmin man number 2, I might get into it because I am extremely. So the clips of stuff I've seen of it, mainly that donkey video he did, it's fucking ace looking for especially for a Switch game. It looks fantastic. Yeah, and I've heard it's a puzzle game, and I do like a sort of puzzle game. I didn't realize that's what it was.
It's like a puzzle sort of strategy thing, isn't it? And apparently, it's like the most welcoming for people who are new to it. Whereas I played 3 on the Wii U, and got rid of it fairly quickly because, well, that control scheme was a bit odd, and it just didn't grab me. But this one the third one is apparently the worst. If you're a fan of the series, Pikmin 3 is the worst of the lot. So
really?
I think Pikmin guy said that this was number 1 for him,
okay.
And I thought he was all about 2. So I'm willing.
We'll wait and see. Yeah, we'll wait and see what you think of it because it's got the major hurdles it's got is I don't like the Switch console particularly, and
Twitter knows that.
Yeah, and it's coming with the Nintendo tax.
Yeah,
to get a hold of the game. Yeah, that's actually fine. Yeah.
But yeah, so it might have been him. But after they said, just talk about how great the game is to us, I thought, like, is that boring? Do people really want to hear that? But no, so I've rethought my whole life, and yeah, we're just going to talk about how great.
You've rethought your whole life. You've handed in your notice. You're going off to live in the woods.
Yeah, I've realised now that the Saturn is better than the Wii U, so everything's changed. New year, new me.
Throwing your mobile phone out the window. You're getting rid of your computer. You're just going to write exclusively on a typewriter. Make yourself a mind palace.
So that's actually reminded me of several things. Right. First of all, I just want to say to Pikmin guy, if you're listening, congratulations that you're not a vegetarian anymore. That was the funniest thing ever. When I came back to work after Christmas and saw him for the first time, he was like, I've got something to tell you. And I shit myself because I really like him and I didn't want him to be leaving. And he's not leaving. He just said, yeah, I'm eating meat now. And he said, like, his first bit of meat that he had again was some like fridge raiders. Do you know what they are?
Oh, yes. Fuck me, mate.
But he'd had to wait, like, he hadn't had any meat for 6 years. So he thought to himself,
what is barely meat? Yeah, let's go for that.
Yeah. Well, apparently the reasoning was like, if you go too heavy with it,
right?
Like,
okay. I've heard that. I've heard your body doesn't. Yeah, if you doesn't like it when you go back.
So after that, like we have these things at work. They're called like yum chop, and they're like jerk chicken, like frozen sort of jerk chicken and rice kind of meals that we put in the microwave because we're rebels and we don't go to the dining hall. The rest of the staff, we go sit back in the office and watch YouTube and eat yum chop with chopsticks. Eat jerk chicken with chopsticks. I'm fucking idiots. So he had one of those, and that seemed to go down really well. And he still kept saying like, "Oh, I really want to eat like a massive burger or a steak, but I'm gonna have to take it easy because I will die if I go too far into the meat thing straight away." Then after the weekend, I come back and he's talking. Well, no, actually, sorry. Later in the day, like mere hours later, he was then going like, "Oh, I could do all those like eating challenges they do in like Nando's and shit. Like I'm gonna go and do like a chicken wings eating challenge." It's like how have you just gone from 0 to 100?
Yeah, so what's his reasoning, or is it private? Like, why was he a vegetarian, and why is he now not?
Apparently, he was a vegetarian because to prove that he could be.
Okay,
I think.
Okay.
So I am giving his story. So he has a right to reply if he wants to come on the podcast and say so. Then he said that he like looked into it after being a vegetarian and realized that actually it's probably a good thing because eating meat is really bad for the environment, and I agree with that.
Yeah.
And then he realized that the choice of things to eat as a vegetarian is actually still kind of shit. It's a lot of like processed bean burgers and lots of cheese, which is not very tolerant of either.
It's incredibly carbohydrate heavy.
Yeah, and And apparently his missus is also a veggie, but she's a fussy veggie. So like
Oh my
half the stuff
God.
he wanted, he also couldn't eat either, and he doesn't like mushrooms. So he was just like, "Fuck it, I'm just gonna do it. I don't care anymore." He said, "Oh yeah, I was eating loads of Haribo throughout, so that's got meat gelatin in it anyway. So I probably wasn't a proper veggie anyway." So
I tell you though, Percy pigs, like the vegan ones, are
Oh, yeah.
better than the ones with gelatin in them. I'll fight
he got me
anyone.
onto Beyond Burger actually, which I
Never
really
had
like.
one.
They're so bad for you though. Like,
Yeah, well, that's kind of why I've never had one. To see if they were healthy, like, because I love nothing better than a burger. It's
Yeah, I
my
love
favorite
a
thing in the world. And I've seen them and thought, oh, I'll try them. But then if they're not good for you, so I'm like, well, if I'm already doing this, I'm just going to go for the thing I don't like.
just eat a bit of steak. But yeah, apparently he ate full on like McDonald's and loads of stuff over that weekend afterwards as well. He just went full on, and he's fine.
God.
He's not dead, so good for him. But so that was him saying "New Year, New Me." But there was another story that they've told me that I've been desperate to tell you for ages, and I keep forgetting. And so they had this friend, right? And I can't remember how long it was since they'd seen him, but apparently they hadn't seen him for ages. Then he saw him in the town and started talking to him about it, and he'd become a lighthouse keeper.
My granddad used to be a lighthouse keeper. My mum grew up living in lighthouses.
Oh, you've told me that before.
I think I have, yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't know they still were a thing, though, because they're all automated now. I guess he checks that they're working, does he? Maintains them?
You're about to hear what else they do. So, in the style of New Year, New Me, he said to Pikmin guy, "Oh, I'm gay now, by the way." And he was like, "All right, okay." And he went, "Yeah, I was bummed against my will in the lighthouse, and I realized that I liked it, so I'm gay now."
What? Oh my God. Bummed. I mean, there's another word for that. Oh my God.
Hadn't seen this man in years, apparently. And then he just came out with that. Like, yeah, I was bummed against my will in the lighthouse, and I realized I liked it, so I'm gay now.
Okay. that is a story.
So I'm sure your granddad did not see anything of the like.
I don't think so. No, my God. There is a lighthouse in Wales. Now, what's it called?
I'm not going to a lighthouse ever now. I don't want to get bummed against my will.
No.
And mainly as well, because if I then had to become gay because I liked it, like, you have to change your whole lifestyle.
Yeah.
Like, you have to go on parades and marches and wear different colours.
You gotta be, yeah.
Too ugly and bald to be a gay guy.
I don't know. You could be the butch one.
Yeah.
What do you call them? What do they call? What are they called? Bears? Am I offending?
Yeah.
Wide swathes of the population here. It's just my ignorance.
Anyway, no, I think let's get right off that.
Just move back on Element 2.
So, you know what? Actually, first of all, because we just said that, it's going to be us talking about how much we love Alan Wake for 2 hours. Having this game on digital only can get fucked.
I don't know why. It's an odd decision.
In the little hole at the end of your dick.
Because Remedy aren't struggling now. They won't be struggling for a publisher. And like,
this was Epic, remember?
Oh, is it? Are they publishing it? Are they?
Yeah.
You're trying to push their Epic store, right? It must be. They're just trying
to.
But who buys physical PC games? They could have done a physical console for the release.
Who makes physical PC games?
Yeah. I don't even have a disc hole. A disc drive from my PC, so I couldn't if I wanted to.
Yeah. Neither do I. But so I have to get this at a price that doesn't make me upset, which was AKA £70, because no. I had to create myself a Indonesian PlayStation account using doing a quick Google to get some kind of random Indonesian address to sign up for the account. Then I had to go on to Off Gamers and buy an Indonesian PlayStation card for whatever the fuck their currency is. I don't remember what it was called, but it's not good. So I got the amount I needed for 35 quid to buy the game, which is basically half price. Then I had to go on my PS5 and sign in the Indonesian PlayStation account. I had to buy the game on the Indonesian PlayStation store on my computer using the voucher that I bought from Off Gamers. Then redeem that voucher on my PlayStation. On that account. And then I had to log that account onto my PlayStation, log into it, download the game, then set up console sharing, then log out of that account, log back into my UK account, and then I could play the game.
Good God.
I wanted to. And if you'd have just made a disc, I wouldn't have had to upset. I wouldn't have had to help the downfall of the Indonesian currency, but here we are. Epic.
Here we are.
I hope you're happy.
Jeez,
So that's
Louise.
shit.
Yeah, that's poor.
I hate that.
I don't know why. Yeah, I wonder why they didn't do it. I know.
It's worrying.
I'm sure I saw a news story somewhere that something like 7 out of 10 game sales are now digital.
I know it is the way that it's going. Like, I do it a lot, but I like to get them for my birthday.
Yeah.
I like to put on my list, get me this game for my birthday, and nobody does. And then when I'm done with it, I get rid of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's going to go away, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
It's on the way already. People are already doing it. So that sucks. And then I had, I had some of the performance issues.
Yeah, what did you have? Because I had a couple, and as I sort of got towards the conclusion of the game, they got steadily worse for me.
Okay.
It was like fine for 3/4 of the game, and then I hit a point where I got one, and when I got one, they started sort of appearing quite often. Sorry, so what did you have?
Well, it started off with the audio sync issues that KDB has mentioned. I believe.
So what is that? Because I don't know. So one of the
basically just the syncing was totally wrong.
Oh,
like
okay.
They would open their mouth and then 2 seconds later.
I had that a bit. The worst one for me is there's a bit where Alan Wake, like when there's a bit where Alan Wake is in the cabin. You take control of him. Is it towards the end? And Alex Casey is he just sort of disappears or goes chasing after someone. Am I talking about the right bit? And you leave the cabin as Alan Wake. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, that is towards the end, isn't it?
Yeah, that whole section
Casey's
had
Scratch, right? That bit.
Yeah, that's it. Scratch apparently comes, but I've now confused myself because Scratch is Alan Wake.
But he's Alex Casey later when the darkness comes out of Alan Wake and goes.
Yeah. Okay. So what happened was I had like no sound effects and no music. All I had was like Alan Wake grunting. So there's an explosion, or Alan Wake gets hit in the head or something like that, and he's like getting up on all you can hear is like, and everything else is silent. And I fixed it. But yeah, that was going on for about 5 minutes. That was the worst one I got.
Luckily, the restart fixed the syncing issues for me because I couldn't have played it like that. It was so off, and parts of me were getting confused as the game went on, thinking it was coming back again. But the reason for that is obviously because I can't believe I didn't know this. But obviously, Alan Wake is portrayed by a Finnish man and voiced by an American, and I did not realize that. And therefore, you can kind of tell that there's a slight bit of a syncing disconnect because obviously Finnish guy is miming and then American guy is talking over the top.
So I had an ever so slight syncing issue near the beginning of the game, but I let it go because it's like, is this game just doing something weird?
Well, that too, right? Yeah.
And the other thing, I began to find it difficult to pick things up. So like if you were going up,
I found it like that from the start.
Yeah, it was just, and there's like a couple boxes where I had to like Alan Wake or Saga would be standing looking at the box and you couldn't see what was in the box, so you had to like turn her to her side and like angle the camera up so you could see in, and then like move it around and just keep tapping the A or X button until they collected it. It happened so many times. To
the point where one time I did that and I walked out the room and had a look at the map and it said that I'd missed something in the room. I was like, no, I didn't. And then I went back in and go, oh yeah, sorry, it's tucked right in the fucking darkest corner of this box I just opened. That's just the weird physics in the like, because you could knock over more things than I realized at times, and I kept hearing noises and being very scared. But it was just Alan has just kicked over a lamp.
Do you think that's like do you think do other games do that? Because I having recently played Max Payne, that's something that jumped out to me. If you like walk into like a chair, it'll knock the chair over and stuff like that. And I wondered if that was a thing that they've just kept, because most games don't do that these days. I think there was a period where physics were all the rage. Yeah. And they would have done that, but I would say recently that's not a thing. Like if I walked into a chair in The Last of Us, for example, it wouldn't fall over. I don't think.
Oh my god! Now are we just now going to be doing like QA testing on every game? We're going to take twice as long to do every podcast because we're going to be knocking all the furniture over to test this theory.
It's probably a reason why I mean, like maybe not the bugs that we're talking about, but like part of the reason that people always talk about how there's so many bugs in Bethesda games is because the game is like, I was going to say literally, it's not literally, it's metaphorically a house of cards that is basically everything's stacked on top of each other, and like there's no other game that you can go in and like pick up 100 cabbages and then vomit them up in a room at the same time. So it's just like the game is just sort of built in a way that is rickety, almost by design, because you can interact with everything. You can't quite do that in Alan Wake, but you can interact with a lot of things and sort of move things about.
Yeah, you can. It was
Um,
and it's an interesting choice for them to do that, but not for everything, but just for like some items can be just have free physics and other items don't.
I don't. What have you got a sort of direction you want to take this podcast in terms of like, is there themes you want to discuss? Because there's lots of questions I've got, and maybe I'll save them till the end, and if we don't cover them, I'll
I say
throw them at you.
Yeah, I think we just play it loosey goosey, baby.
Yeah. Okay.
But I was just going to get some of the nitpicking out of the way.
Yeah, let's get the nitpicking.
Nice. But yeah, Alan. Yeah, I mean, obviously, Alan Wake, the visual performance and the voice performance are both very, very good. There were times when I was like, it sounds like he's in a different room to Saga, and I know this time he's definitely not. But yes, it's because it was dubbed in a different way, I suppose. Here's this. So performance issues. I got quite a few frame drops, like especially in New York, where in the dark place, especially when it was raining later on as well, and there was loads of shadows that were, some of them obviously aren't enemies, some of them are, and you've got explosions of light and you're throwing flares and stuff, like it would tank the frame rate. And at one point it was genuinely almost like a freeze frame image. It just paused because I fucked it so much, and I even started to muck the sound up at times. Like the sound would start cutting in and out because I killed the frame rate so hard. So that was a shame. I'm assuming that is going to get patched out, or it's going to be fixed.
Oh, you would hope so. I'm trying to think how mine ran on my Series X mostly fine, apart from the sort of bugs that, like I was saying, that started to appear towards the end of the game. I did try at one point to load it up on my Series S, and I lasted about 15 minutes, turned it off, and went to my different console. It is not a good. And this may exist in other games, and I just haven't sort of clicked on it. But this game is not really a fun experience on a Series S, and it's the first time that I've played my Series S and thought, oh no, there's a significant difference here. Usually it's fairly like for like. Maybe the textures are a bit worse, loading ever so slightly slower, but this is the worst one for it, and it's a shame, because I don't have an eye for frame rates particularly, but this one I was just like, oh, this is hurting my eyeballs.
There's a lot going on in every scene, no matter where you are. If you're Saga, there's tons of like foliage around and just lots of lighting effects going. And the lighting in this game is excellent, except for I think we both agreed that the mirrors are totally busted.
Oh yeah,
like it was just like a weird pixelated, shadowy image, not in any way a reflection. Seems like that was like a remnant of them maybe thinking about putting ray tracing in and then kicking it to the curb, but not bothering to fix the fact that there's no ray tracing and no reflections either.
It could be. I imagine, like, apparently, I imagine mirrors are quite intensive things to do.
Duke Nukem had mirrors in it, so
it's Duke Nukem. There's a game. I don't think it's Duke Nukem, but there's a game we have played recently that has mirrors in it. And if you look at yourself in the mirror, what they've actually done is they've created a box behind. It's essentially a window you're looking through, and they've created a box, and they have another character that you're also controlling at the same time. And when you're looking in the mirror, you're actually seeing the character walking around this room that they've segregated off.
Well, I know that was in Shenmue, and I thought I must have told you.
Maybe that's where that's coming from.
Steve said about that on the Sega.
Maybe I'm regurgitating info you've given me.
Yeah, because it's almost like somebody did a video on it, which we must have had a look at, where basically they went in and were like, look, see, it's just a total same room mapped, because that's apparently easier to just duplicate the room than it is to do a smaller, I don't know, or it was anyway. Very strange. One of the other things that bothered me, only slightly, is, well, first of all, like some weird spelling and typos and stuff I kept noticing a couple of times. There was one bit, when you're Saga and you're in the mind place and she's putting all of her clues on the board.
Yeah.
At one point, one of them said something. It was talking about obviously Cauldron Lake or whatever, and it said the Lake.
Oh, I missed that.
I just looked at it. I was like, eh? And there's one other thing that's really started to bother me recently is when people say me instead of I when they're talking about something. And loads of people were doing it in this game. They'll be like, me and Bob like this. And it's like, well, no, it's Bob and I like this. But then I thought, like, I know the real answer, but they were usually kind of dumb people that were saying it. So dumb people probably would get that wrong. And is that like good character development, or did the people who did the script not actually know how to use those correctly? But it was lots of times they did it, and it really bothered me. But I thought, can I let this go because it's somebody from some sort of like backwater town in the middle of nowhere saying this? It fits the character, but I'm still annoyed.
And it's not an
I
American
would make
English
the
thing,
grammar,
is it? Potentially.
No. So how it works is you take away the other person and it should still work as a sentence. So when I said me and Bob like this, if you take Bob out of it, you would never say me like this. You would say I like this. So it's Bob and I like this. That's how it works. So somebody once taught me that in like the last 10 years, and I've been obsessed with people getting that wrong ever since. To the point I actually tweeted the Backpage pod when he was like, one of the guys said, "Oh yeah, the amount of times I had to cut out the other dude saying like in between words," and I went, "Oh, is it the same amount of times as you say me instead of I?" And then he was like, "Oh, that only shows how intently you listen to the show." It's like, yeah, it does. We're all friends. So yeah, that's a stupid nitpicking point that probably won't even make this edit. But
well, yes, it's this.
It just really played in my head. Like, should I be annoyed? Because this does seem like you would say that wrong, but I still think you should have the grammar in your game as a script writer correctly done. They are from Finland, so
yeah,
maybe I should.
I guess you want your characters
not a native English speaker, so
yeah,
maybe
you want your characters to be believable. Yeah, the reason I was asking you about that is because, like, I think normally I would say blah 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 and I, but I'm sure, and this is like I'm trying to pull from my memory. My short-term memory is bad at the best of times, and I'm pulling from a memory that was about 15 years old. I'm sure when I was at uni, I looked it up, and it seemed inconclusive which one was correct.
Interesting. So yeah, I would go away and say David and I did a really good podcast. Not me and David did a really good podcast, because me did a really good podcast makes no sense.
Me did a good podcast makes no sense. No.
Yeah.
That's assuming that is correct. That piece of information you were given. Who gave you it?
Well, no, we didn't. Oh, right. Sorry. Not whether we did a good podcast or not. No, I can't remember who gave me it now. Certainly wasn't an English teacher.
Anyway.
Just a bloke. That was it. I think otherwise the game, for the most part, runs really well.
Yeah, for the most part.
It looks fucking awesome.
It looks fantastic.
The mocap in this game is outrageously good.
The what, sorry?
The mocap.
Oh, yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
And the face graphics and the lip syncing and stuff is just brilliant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it looked absolutely fantastic. Do you have a preference for which character? Do you have a favorite character to control?
I like how they differentiated the characters and how they feel and how they're basically all of their campaign felt. It's almost like Saga was more of a continuation of Alan Wake 1 because she's still walking around the woods shooting Taken, doing more collectible stuff really than Alan Wake is.
Sure.
Whereas with Alan Wake, they just decided to take his character and use the fact that he's in this narrative status of he's in the dark place, this parallel twisted universe where everything that you write can become reality. They just ran with that and decided to make that part of the game just as wild and as free flowing as they wanted it to be. This is why you have We Sing and things about him watching himself on TVs and changing the environment by writing stuff down and flicking things over with the light to make different paths for himself. Like they did more of all the more inventive stuff was in that Alan Wake bit. And then they transposed the original Alan Wake gameplay onto Saga and sort of kept that going with the same style as the original for those who wanted more of that. So she's more of like a horror action game, and then Alan Wake is more of like a psychological horror puzzler, which I just thought was just a really good like contrast between the two styles, where switching between them would always be something like quite wildly different in what you were doing and where you were.
That's one thing I
felt
certainly didn't do enough of in the game, is switching between the characters. I sort of just mainlined the character until it made me change, and then would mainline the next character.
It
Yeah, I
scared me
went.
so much. I had to switch back to Saga and just like chill out for a bit because the Alan Wake sections were so scary to me that all the shadows and not knowing where they are and they're always talking at you and they're all over the
I was
place.
hoping you would
Shit me right.
know the answer to this, or whether I just got better at the game. But at the beginning of the game, or the beginning of the Alan Wake section, I found it quite difficult to tell who was going to attack me when. And then there's like a tooltip that tells you to turn your light off because it makes them harder to see you.
Yes,
which I never did. I just sort of ran
I
about
did
with my
sometimes.
light on all the time. But then I don't know whether it's because I had upgraded or sort of just got an eye for it. Towards the end of the Alan Wake stuff, it becomes quite obvious which of the shadows are going to get you and which aren't. I notice if you sort of hover your light over them and just wait,
Yeah.
the non-real ones, or the ones that aren't going to attack you, it becomes apparent they're see-through. And if they don't do it, they're ones that are going to get you. And so I sort of did a flip between finding it incredibly scary because there was a lot, especially in that underground section.
Oh yeah.
That was so scary. Trying to get out of there was absolutely terrifying. But by the end of the Alan Wake stuff, I kind of knew who was coming when, and you could kind of predict it. And even the ones that later on,
I think I was looking at it based off of their movement, like how the ones that were kind of just like languishing in the background, just being like wanker. They were not a problem, but if they started to dart around,
they were a problem
But then later on, the ones that weren't attacking you started doing that as well, and I felt like I never managed to get a read on it. So you dealt with that.
I did. Well, I even found there was towards the end of the Alan Wake stuff as well. You would be walking past a dithering one, and it would knock you to the ground.
Oh, I hated those wankers.
That didn't mean they were then dangerous. Sometimes they would just knock you to the ground, and they would continue to be not a problem.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can't decide, and I would love someone to be able to tell me. I can't decide if I sort of figured it out, if something changed, or like I just got a better eye for it, because that underground section scared the life out of me.
Yeah,
that's another thing that was absolutely fantastic is the sound design of the game. Yeah. There was every time it gave me a prickle down my spine when you'd complete a riddle for Saga, and then it would go all fuzzy, and then you would see like, I don't know, like black marks going on. And there was one where you're in like an old building, you're in like a cabin, and you could hear footsteps going, and you knew where they were in like above you, like, oh, they're up and to the left. That chilled me, and it's the first time I've ever, because I get opposite fear with games. You were talking about, we spoke about Layers of Fear. I spoke about how Layers of Fear didn't scare me because I knew there was no agency to me, and what was going to happen was going to happen to me no matter what.
Yeah.
Whereas that made you worse. That was the first time I had Alexisms in that, like, I knew because I'd done a lot of riddles by that point, so I knew there was nothing upstairs. But
I don't know. I mean,
terrified me going up there.
Sometimes the riddles would get you attacked, though. I thought they felt that they kept that relatively open ended, because there's one where like it's where you're in the sort of lakeside. Is it the lakeside cabin? Some sort of cabins anyway. And there's like the riddle ends up with like a bloke just bursts out of one of the cabins you've been in at the front door, and he's a big fat lad. And there was another one where it's talking about like a wolf stalking somebody, and then as soon as you did the riddle, like wolves attacked you.
Nah, see,
so I felt like I never really could be sure. I did think in that instance that there probably isn't anybody upstairs. But there were a couple of times where you followed those dark footsteps, and then it would actually be an enemy.
I'm trying to think of the way to word it. I knew there was nothing going to be supernatural. It would be, it'd be like a wolf or a tree cult man or one of the Taken, which I realise is supernatural in itself. But hopefully you know what I mean. It's not going to like if they're putting black splodges about the place. I'm not going to find some black ghost.
Yeah, it's not Scratch.
Yeah,
like hey.
What did you think of the riddles? I quite enjoyed them.
I think for the majority of the game, all the collectibles compared to Alan Wake 1 are night and day.
So much better.
Far better.
So much better.
A, they require some kind of either puzzle solving or they're more difficult to find than just randomly placed somewhere. They're not difficult to find, sorry. They're sort of signposted in a way that you have to think about.
Even
there's
boxes.
a coffee,
yeah,
there's a fucking thermos flask you missed in that room because you weren't paying attention. Whereas this one, you have to follow a riddle or something to open the stash or find where it is or whatever.
Yeah.
So yes, they involved more brain power to actually get to, but then also they all meant something. There wasn't any just pick up a thermos and it just get them all for the achievement. There was, the lunch boxes would give you the weapon upgrade parts. The stashes would be stashes of stuff. The riddles would get you the charms for her bracelet. And then Alan Wake had the words of power that would do the upgrades for him. And what was the other thing that he had? He had more stashes as well from Tim
and he
Breaker,
also had the eclipse things that would give you an echo. That's what they're called.
Yeah, which gives you story, which is fine.
Which is absolutely
fine. Some of the stashes with the maths puzzles on, no, can't do it. Just can't do it. I'm looking at. I even thought to myself as soon as I started reading it, it's like this guy has 30 of this, and then he divides it by 11 and gives it to. No, sorry, I don't. If I'm going to play maths in a video game, I'll play Persona 5. Thank you. But I'm looking at. I'm not even wasting my time on it. I tried it on a calculator, and then I looked at the guide on IGN, and it was like the way this one is 2x minus 4y equals 7y. Solve y. And I was like, no, I'm 37. No, just tell me the answer. But
I liked how inventive they were as well, because they even had a treasure hunt at one point, a sort of treasure hunt where you found a map and you had to follow it to find the key to a stash.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And the one I was talking about actually, where that guy bursts out of the cabin, that was the thing where
that one?
The little kids had drawn their little thing. Is that the thing you're on about?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's like the group of cabins. You have to go under the tree and.
Yeah, and it's like go through it was drawing like things from the imagination of a kid, but it was everyday kind of. That was really cool. Yeah, really liked all of that sort of stuff. I liked the riddles as well. They were fun.
On it, are you up enough to sort of be able to explain the ending to the riddles? So that apparently once you complete all the riddles, you end up speaking to a guy on the radio.
Oh yeah,
like, you've been messing with my stuff, and then he tries to get you into the. Does he try and get you with something, or put you?
He's trying to make you end up in the dark place. He's trying to figure out a way,
right? Okay.
That solving those riddles will suck you into the dark place, but in the end, he gets sucked into the dark place instead.
And is it clear how does he get sucked into the dark place?
We don't see. I guess the same way that Nightingale did in the first game, just like yoink.
Yeah, he just gets taken in there.
That's a nice parallel, wasn't it? To start this game where you're playing as big fat naked Nightingale.
Loved the start. It was so good. I can't imagine there's many games that kick off with a big fat naked man filling your screen with hairy arse.
Did you try and see his dick?
I did, yeah. I spun around for ages. If you go on if you go on my stream, you will see me trying for a while to see.
Because they showed it later anyway. So I was just like, well, why wouldn't you let me just try and be like, wait, caught
yes, because someone will have to put in jiggle physics, right?
Oh yeah. Well, it was quite cold and he was very bloated, so his balls would have shrank quite a bit, I would have thought.
Yeah.
The one thing that I may need to look up to understand, but the revelation that Nightingale was already taken and the cult are good guys because they were trying to force the clicker into his heart and press the button to kill him the way that Alan did to Barbara Jagger, did not appear to be taken when I was controlling him. Did not feel like he was taken in any way.
No, not at all. No, he didn't.
He was terrified. He was running for his life. I'm almost certain he talked normally. Yeah. But that could be me misremembering. He was obviously quite grey, and he was bloated because he'd been in the lake, I guess, and he'd just come out of the lake. So that explains that. So obviously the darkness is in him, but I don't know if they gave... I don't know.
So could it be an Alan Wake situation in which the darkness is there, but not always sort of omnipresent and controlling?
True. That's true.
It could be that sort of fits.
Yeah, you're right, because he is Scratch the whole time, right?
Yeah.
Whether that was Scratch just manipulating them, or whether he was actually lucid enough in those periods to actually sort of... Because otherwise, yeah, when Alan Wake is Scratch the entire time. So if he's constantly got that in him, then he was being far too helpful to the FBI for it to be a ruse.
I mean, like I doubt Scratch would have let himself be put in prison and stuff like that. Or maybe he would have, because he seems...
But then But then he jumped out of
He
him.
just left prison of his own accord. So it's unclear whether...
But he left Alan and went into Old Matey Boy.
Yeah, he did.
And then...
So I think is the presence like a one being thing? So like,
Maybe,
could he?
yeah,
if
maybe
it's in
not.
Alan, it probably can't also
of
be
dark.
in someone else.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
I quite enjoyed it when Alan is like sort of zapped through the prison bars and hit a guy so hard he put his jacket on.
Yeah. Which confused me because I was like, why the fuck's he wearing a
Where's he got his
Customer
jacket from?
Brothers or whatever it was called? Yeah,
I
biker
said
jacket. But
to
you're
you
right,
before,
yeah.
while we're on the subject of clothing as well, why Alan Wake was dressed up in his American Nightmare get-up for most of it.
In the
I assume it's
non-canon
just like a
clothes.
nod. Yeah, it's just like, haha,
Yeah.
look at this. It's because it's the exact same check shirt, open in the same way.
Yeah.
Very odd.
That is. I like it if it's just a nod.
Yeah.
And obviously, you know, that's part of the reason why we're not talking about the story, because it's too involved with other games and stuff. But I like what they're cooking. I'm really impressed with how much they've managed to interweave, like basically every single one of their games.
It's done well. I guess I've been trying to think why, because I really have quite a severe hatred towards the Marvel movies. And I hate that you've to watch one Marvel movie, you've got to watch about 80 others.
I hate that.
So, but then I found myself really enjoying this and really enjoying the sort of Remedy extended universe to sort of like try and draw a parallel between the two. Totally. And I don't know, maybe it's just as simple as it's actually done well and intelligently. And
yeah,
you don't have
it's
to
not
know
for
it.
Children. No children need to be thought about because it's I don't know what the rating of the game is because there's no box to look at it on. But yeah, it's obviously for more mature audiences. So, and I guess we've had 20 hours in each of these things to acclimatize ourselves to the story rather than an hour and a half 2 years ago sort of thing like movies are.
I've also never played Control yet, and I was aware that there was things from Control in there.
I was relieved to see it wasn't as heavy-handed with the Control stuff as I was worried.
Whereas they could have done that. And whereas I don't feel like I feel like I would have got more from it if I had played Control, but I don't necessarily feel like I had much of a lesser experience. Like I had a fully fledged, rounded experience that explained itself without hitting you over the head. It was vague in a lot of ways that I was confused about. Like I am still baffled by that section where you can watch the film in the theater.
I wish I did that. I didn't do that.
You didn't do that.
I'm so annoyed by
that. I don't know what that is. I sat and watched it.
Neither does Alex Casey. It is, isn't it?
It's like 20 minutes long and it is weird. And I can't even sort of piece together what it was talking about. He has like Alex Casey's character. Is it Alex Casey?
Yeah.
He gets poisoned. He gets tree cult of the tree, as in like he just gets his insides. He gets stabbed to bits. Like some woman appears. He ends up naked. Like I don't understand anything that was going on in that at all. I was just baffled. He appeared to have some sort of like brother that was talking about killing him. And then he appears and has a conversation. Then they share some vodka with each other. And then a woman appears. Oh, it's odd, man. It's really odd.
I need to watch it on YouTube, and I'll do that after this because I'm so annoyed I didn't watch any of it. Didn't know it was a thing.
No.
But even that kind of stuff is like that's classic Remedy. But I think they implemented that in this game better than they ever have before. Like it didn't bog itself down with overdoing the different TV shows and stuff. Like I feel like in Max Payne 2 that was kind of cool at the time, but when we were actually, you and I were sort of talking about how many of them we even paid any attention to, and some of them are kind of trying to be telling the story of, this is about Max and Mona and this is about whatever. Number one, they were really hard to actually like pay attention to because they were so tiny. Like just the fact that this game let you fucking press the button and zoom in and just watch the TV, knowing you're not going to get shot.
That became such a thing during that era as well, didn't it? Because there was like Max, I know these are like slightly, it was within like 5 years of each other, I think. Like the Max Payne stuff with the TV stuff, then GTA went wild. You able to like go and sit down and watch Ricky Gervais stand-up shows and stuff. And the one that jumped out to me when you were talking about the TV shows is The Darkness. You could actually sit down with your girlfriend and watch like entire mini episodes of a TV show they had invented.
Wow. What, The Darkness game?
Yeah, the darkness. I'm sure it's the darkness. Yeah, that's the one where you're like a sort of kid.
Got, like, the little,
Your dad's a mafia boss. Yeah, and you've got like the dark
Yeah.
things, and your
Yeah.
girlfriend gets killed right near the beginning. At the start of it, you can go and sit down and watch TV with her. It's really weird. That was a
Jesus.
thing back then. But Remedy have obviously kept it
Yeah.
going. They've gone like home run with it with Quantum Break, and now they've wound it back because you enjoyed those commercials, didn't you? That you could watch.
Yeah, well, I definitely did like the fact that I can't remember the guys' names now.
Irmac, something like that.
Alan Wake 2 brothers, Koskela brothers, Ilmo and Yako.
Yeah.
I did like the fact that obviously it was very, very blatantly the same actor, just in one stage he's got a really shit fake beard on. I enjoyed that, and how he was like, clearly they were getting given beer by people to do these things, and he's drunk as fuck and just doing a terrible job. I liked the one where he was like doing all the karate shit to break whatever, and I very much liked the coffee one where the guy said, "Oh no, this coffee is shit." You don't want to have coffee that's shit.
It's probably the only one that I've really properly watched. The other sort of like I started watching and then wandered off a lot of the time. And the last one I just ran into the shop, set it off, and then ran out again. The last one you can get in the diner.
Oh yeah, because that was basically most of what they had. I mean, they had the Old Blokes radio show, which you, I believe, off air posed a question to me of, is that real? Because you seem to remember that when you went in his room and he's doing the radio show, there's actually nothing.
Oh, his screens are all off. Yeah, everything's turned off. So I was like, is this?
I did not notice that. That is, yeah, maybe it is just. Where is that? Is that in?
That's in the old folks' home when you're Saga. Yeah.
Okay.
And you're in there and you're looking for the Tor and.
Yeah, because you can hear that as Saga, right? It's not like an Alan Wake Dark Place thing. It is in the.
I'm trying to think. You do you hear it? So you definitely hear his radio show. I'm trying to think.
It's not like the campsites and stuff. It's just kind of. I did like the fact that it's still just like the local residents chatting mundane, useless shit about the most unimportant things for most of it.
I though, like, and feel free to shoot me down.
He's trying
though.
to do that anyway.
Like with Saga though, I'm not sure I could trust anything with that either, because I think there's a slight bit of me that wonders if she's just a fake character as well that he's written. Because her life starts to get manipulated in a way that I'm like, oh, are we just sort of witnessing the rewrites, if that makes sense? So, like the different drafts, and like when he rewrites a draft, like stuff about Saga's life would change. Like her kid was alive, she speaks to him on the phone at the beginning, and then he goes away and says
is that not just because she was far enough away from the lake?
It could. Well, this is the thing: is it could be that, but I think also between that there's a part where Alan Wake says, I need to rewrite this, and I need to. This talks about like giving blood or like doing the hard bits or something, and then it starts to appear that Saga's kid's dead. And I'm like, is that so? I mean, I fully aware I might be overthinking it, but yeah, there was a bit towards the sort of latter third of the game where I was like, I don't know if Saga's real, especially because
she can fucking hear what people have said in the past to each other without actually knowing it.
And she's got like her mind palace, and she can make wild leaps of logic, and like her partner is basically Max Payne to a lot. Like he just becomes more and more, especially like they even start talking about his drink and drugs problem, where he's taking painkillers and drinking whiskey stuff.
And yeah, Alan Wake has written books in the past about Alex Casey. And there's a real man who's also a detective, who's also called Alex Casey, who looks the same. Is he not real? And has Alan Wake just made him come to life? But Saga knows him because Alan Wake was written that Saga knows him. And oh my god, this game rules, but it hurts.
And there's a bit where Saga goes, "Oh, Alex Casey's dying," in her mind palace. Did I just forget? Why is he dying?
Because he got attacked in somewhere. It's where you find him, and he's like hiding behind those. He's hiding in like some medical office. He's like cowering in the corner.
Yeah.
And you go in and save him, but he got not gravely injured, but badly injured there.
Because there's a bit where she goes, "Oh, he's dying," and he's not telling me about it.
Yeah, it's that bit. Like she thinks that it's just that she thinks his injury's there or whatever's going on is worse than he's making out. Like he's been
Right,
shot,
okay.
he's dying, and he's
Because
just
I
trying
was
to
expecting
soldier
some
on.
big reveal that he had, like, I don't know, some disease that was killing him, but then it just never really came to pass.
I believe that if you play the game on the final draft, this is spoiler alert, by the way, for anybody listening, so just skip ahead like 30 seconds. I believe if you play the final draft, the ending of that game is that Saga's bone is answered by her kid.
Ah, right, okay. So, because she does say at the end, you've got to rewrite this, and the non-negotiables are my partner lives, and so does her kid, who I thought was a boy for like the first 5 or 6 hours.
Because it's called Logan, which is
called
Wolverine's
Logan?
name.
Yeah, it's called Logan.
You've named your kid after Wolverine.
And it's a kid it's just a kid whose voice hasn't broken. And then they were like talking about it being a girl's name. I was like, is it? All right, I'm not going to argue.
Yeah, sure.
Carry on.
But yeah, obviously in the normal ending for the first Ray round, she rings the phone. It does the old Inception. Is his little dreidel going to fall
right? Okay,
over?
and the kid answers eventually.
But if you do if you play it again on the final draft, then yeah, the kid does answer. And I don't know what happens after that, but so I think something obviously leads it back to the fact that is Alan back in the?
He's back in
the darkness, or is he normal at that point, or is he dead?
He must be in the dark place because he's in his writer's room.
Yeah.
Which is that room at the top of the stairs, right? That you get told not to go into.
Why is that in the old folks' home? Why is that up there?
I have no idea.
Let's see what it says here. In a post, and obviously, yeah. So you've got Alice as well, haven't we? Where she is not actually dead. Apparently, the video that she shows.
Who the fuck is Alice?
Good song. Alan's wife.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
Where she tells you that she says she makes out that this is her last recording because she's going to go kill herself.
Oh, I found that chilling where you apparently see her walk off a cliff. I don't know why. That gave me the spooks as well.
Yeah, that was horrible. But what she was actually doing was jumping into the lake to go save Alan. Because at the end of Alan Wake, she obviously comes out. He is trapped in the dark place, which he went in to save her. She is therefore haunted after that by Scratch/Alan. And to help him, she decides that she is going to go jump into the dark place to manipulate him to doing what he needs to do or figuring out what he needs to figure out.
I don't know why, and again, overthinking, but those pictures of Alan Wake that she was taking, there's obviously Scratch like coming in a door and stuff, and then like later in the game, you would be coming in a door, and there would be pictures taken of you, and then you were like, oh, that's that picture that I saw before of me walking into the room, and then like in the first Alan Wake, there's allusions to him when he's having his writer's block that he has a bit of a drinking problem and stuff like that. Like, the layers of us, like, is Scratch just like Alan Wake's the dark side to his personality, and is he actually doing this? I was like, he's like abusive.
Definitely the metaphor that the game is going for, if nothing else. Yeah,
it started to creep me out a little bit and make me feel a bit uncomfortable, but in a totally effective way, obviously not.
So I'm just going to read this from Wikipedia now, and then we'll sort of digest it, so then we can at least talk about it. So let's just say we'll go back to the bit after the summoning, where they try and summon Alan Wake from the lake by playing a little rock concert or whatever. So it says, that summoning ritual fails to summon Alan in the current time, and instead was responsible for his initial appearance earlier in the story. Both Saga and Alan come to the realization that Alan and Scratch were always the same person, with Scratch being Alan, who is possessed by the dark presence at the end of every loop, and thus indirectly responsible for Alice's death. Scratch arrives at the summoning site, and Saga is able to banish him from Alan's body, only for Scratch to possess Casey instead, steal the clicker, and throw Saga into the dark place. With Scratch in possession of the clicker, Alan concludes that the only way to stop him now is to find the manuscript and write a completely new ending for Return. I forgot all about that bit. It's only just come back to me where you go into the dark place and it's just like a daytime thing and everyone's dressed in deer masks. And so it's fucking crazy cool.
Yeah.
That bit.
I got killed in that bit. If you don't, if you,
Well, if you
there's a
don't
bit
run
where you
away
get a
from
book
them?
and they all start chasing you.
Yeah.
I ran into the building and then I tried to take a left to go in the corridor, and someone just walks out in front of you and stabs the living shit out of you.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh, I wish I'd seen that, because I kept dying to Scratch when he was chasing like through the corridors. I would always go the wrong way. I died so many times in those bits. So yeah, so the only way to stop him is to find a manuscript and write a complete new ending for Return. He returns to his writing room and tries to work out how to write a perfect ending that saves everybody while staying consistent with the horror genre. Meanwhile, trapped in her mind palace, Saga fights off the dark presence's attempt to overwhelm her with her own negative emotions and self-doubt. Another kind of on the nose metaphor, that one.
Mm-hmm.
Now in the dark place proper, she reunites with Breaker, who remains there in his search for Door, heavily implied to be Saga's missing father.
Is it?
Yeah.
Did not pick that up at all.
Neither did I. I've read that since, but I meant to text you about that actually. Yeah, that Mr. Door is apparently supposed to be her dad, because she doesn't know who her dad is.
Oh yeah, and they're all seers, and she doesn't know who her dad is because her mum never talked about her. So I guess her mum's probably been in the dark place, which is why she left that place. What'd you call it? I keep wanting to call it Equifall. Watery, yeah. Because she was just getting out of there. She must have left the dark place.
Yeah.
Potentially. Or he got sucked in and he's still there.
Yeah,
because
he
he's a
decided to
malevolent.
go in.
He's quite evil, isn't he?
Seems that way. He's like a traveler through doors, isn't he? He can kind of has more power over it than we think. She then receives aid from an anonymous woman who directs her to the clicker and a bullet of light. Saga takes the two items and escapes back to the real world by mimicking Door's actions on a manuscript page. With the clicker, Alan is able to banish Scratch from Casey's body. Scratch returns to possessing Alan, and Saga shoots him with the bullet of light, seemingly killing him and Scratch. As Casey recovers from his possession, Saga tries to call Logan to confirm her safety, but the scene cuts short before any answer can be heard. In a post-credit scene, a recording left behind by Alice reveals that after speaking to an organization at their offices, presumably the FBC, which is from Control, she had managed to fully regain her memories of what happened to Alan. She had tricked Alan into thinking she committed suicide by choosing to return to the dark place as part of a plan to help him eventually escape, explaining that the only way he can escape the loops is through ascension, which is clearly going to be Alan Wake 3.
Mm-hmm.
Alan then revives from his gunshot wound and says it's not a loop, it's a spiral, which a spiral clearly he's able to ascend to the top of.
Yeah.
The New Game Plus mode has a new ending. As he's shot with the bullet of light, Alan realizes that it was meant to cleanse a part of himself the dark presence used to create Scratch, finally killing his doppelganger for good while finishing the spiral and freeing Alan from the loop. Saga's call connects, confirming Logan's survival, and Alan revives soon after, to the surprise of her and Casey, declaring himself the master of not just two worlds, but many. So they're still there when he wakes up. We also find that out as well. So they're all in the writer's room together. I believe there's also DLC coming for Alan Wake 2 as well.
Oh, good. That'll be fun.
So that will hopefully shed some more light on, or at least segue into Control 2, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I hope so.
So that was basically, that's just the Wikipedia synopsis.
So can you wrap this into why the old dudes, the old gods of Asgard, keep calling Alan Wake Tom, who is the diver?
And also the mental guy in the hotel, right? Is he in the hotel? You go and see him a couple of times, don't you? Thomas Zane. Alan goes to see him.
So you do, yes. Who is also Alan Wake. So are these just like multiple personalities?
I think that's supposed to be implied, yeah. This is why I didn't want to talk about the story, because it's so open-ended and vague and open to interpretation.
Yeah, this is it. You can read it, and I think like, although I'm unconvinced by it, I think like I was saying, I think you can make a fairly reasonable argument that Saga is even real. So like, there's so many layers to it that you can read into it as deep as you like.
Somebody on Reddit seems to think Alan Wake created Saga Anderson. Wake had to escape, write his escape. He was already out. He wanted to make it true. Wake needed a hero. A hero needed a crisis. For the part in the story about a government agency, Wake needed something special. This was from Control. Interesting. Let me read that again. Wake had tried to escape, write his escape. He was already out. He wanted to make it true. Wake needed a hero. A hero needed a crisis. For the part in the story about a government agency, Wake needed something special. That is apparently from Control.
Okay.
And at the time, according to this guy on Reddit, everybody probably thought this was referring to Jesse and the Bureau. Jesse's the main character of Control.
Right, okay.
I guess we now know it's actually referring to Saga and her being part of the FBI. Just Google the definition of Saga, a long story of heroic achievement, especially a medieval prose narrative in Old Norse or Old Icelandic, a long involved story account or series of incidents. Then somebody else is saying Alan can't create something out of nothing. There has to be cause and effect. So people don't seem to know.
No, but I think that's by design, right? It's meant to stimulate discussion like this.
But she's definitely related. Well, so far it seems very clear that she's related to Thor and Odin. Thor is her granddad, and Odin's her great uncle, and they're still great. Obviously, just two dickhead old rockers drinking moonshine and shredding guitars and stuff. I enjoy them.
What did you think of that hospital section actually, when he's running around with a hammer? That was another scary bit, having to walk into a room not knowing what was in there. I don't know why, but hospitals are just inherently quite scary places for horror games.
Yeah. And that one was an even worse hospital where people, like, just old people are just being put to pasture in horrible ways.
Oh my god. And so I did get this right. Rose has left the diner and now works in that old folks home, right? That's how that works. The lady,
or both,
because she seemed to appear. Yeah, she must just do both. Because then later on, you go back to the diner and it's not Rose. It's just
that's true.
Lady.
Yeah, it's like an older lady, isn't it?
Yeah.
So unless she has just like two jobs.
She must have two jobs because I'm sure you see her earlier on in the diner.
Yeah,
and someone refers to there's Rose. Yeah, and they were like, oh, she's a bit weird.
Yeah, because she knows that Saga. She says to Saga, doesn't she? Like, oh, you're back, especially after what happened to your little girl.
Mm-hmm. She's odd because then there's like that bit where she's like in the river in the old folks home trying to get the old guys out, and then they get sucked into the dark place, and then Saga's like talks about it, and she's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I wasn't in the river.
Yeah, that is funny. Yeah, which is just trying to get like an old bloke to come out of the lake, and he's just standing in there yelling nonsense.
Talking about old blokes, though, Cynthia. Oh my god, those jump scares.
Oh, those jump scares are I hate them. And apparently, if you play the new game plus, they're changed around, so you can't even predict them anymore. But what I was doing while sort of preparing for this last week is I listened to our Alan Wake podcast.
Oh, excellent.
And you said for the end of the game of Alan Wake, I asked you the question, like, what do we think about cinematic endings to games? Like, how do we feel about the fact that the game basically ends with you watch Alan Wake walk into Barbara Jagger, stick the clicker in her and press it, and then it's kind of over, and you just watch a bit more cutscene. You don't do anything. It's not like a big bad fight.
Mm-hmm.
And you said that was better than shine your torch on an old granny with spindly arms and then shoot her. And that's exactly what the Cynthia fight is. For me, I know she stun locked you and basically it looked like it kind of glitched you out. But for me, she didn't touch me because I would just drop a flare every time and then shoot her a lot. And she would just be going, and then it was pathetic. It was sad and pathetic that I just blew away this old biddy after all she'd put me through, all the jump scares where I was fucking thinking I was going to have a heart attack, having to have breaks and play Marvel Snap to calm down. And for the fight to be like that, that was quite fun. But it just made me laugh that you saying, yeah, it'll be much better than doing that. And then that's exactly what they did with her. That was very funny.
That was one bit I really liked when I think I said this in the next podcast, but when you're walking around the old folks home and they're sort of tying this back and they're like showing different people, and they're obviously like 10 years older, so the radio guy's now moved into his old folks home. Cynthia was the old lady that had lived in the power plant, and you go into her room and she's got pictures of the power plant and stuff, and then like
Yeah.
Saga actually goes, I think I'm missing context here. And, like,
Yeah, some really special time in Cynthia's life. Remember that time when Thomas Zane wrote a clicker in a shoebox into my life or
which
something?
makes Thomas Zane potentially be in Alan Wake weird,
Didn't he?
unless Cynthia turns out to be Alan Wake's wife, Alice, because
Didn't didn't Thomas Zane write Alan Wake into a poem or something to then get Alan to get him out of the dark place? Isn't that what the first game?
yeah, that's
starts with?
right, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and Cynthia just like fancied Thomas Zane.
Yes, that's right. I think I can't remember where I heard it, but I think the strong belief is that if there is when there is DLC for this, that the antagonist in the DLC is very likely to be Thomas Zane.
Yeah,
As,
I mean, I'd be into
reveals
that.
himself
Thomas
to be the
Zane.
actual
I
evil.
feel like, yeah, I feel like there's untold stuff about him because he just became a bit of a problem. You never really understood why or what was going on with him, and then he died.
Yeah.
Or
I also
who knows, because he got shot in exactly the same way as Alan Wake gets shot at the end.
It's quite funny that that loop was, or what he perceived to be the loop, was basically just him shooting himself in the head before he could fix the story over and over
Yeah.
again. The dark presence is just possessing Alan to stop Alan in the
Alice.
face. We touched on it earlier, but like the gimmicks of the two characters were obviously a real fun thing to switch between. I really liked like the sort of True Detective Twin Peaks, repeated Twin Peaks vibes that Saga got. I thought that was like, did you like all the clues and all that kind of stuff? I thought that felt to me like it was a more of a sophisticated way, or at least a stylistic way of doing an objective marker without having to do an objective marker. Just here's some clues, try and figure out where they go, so you can actively play out the character figuring out what they need to do next. Then she'll think in her head of where she should go, and then you just go and do it.
Yeah.
I thought that was a really cool way of delivering that gave you the necessary amount of breathing time that you needed. Although when it said at the beginning of the game, like, oh, the game doesn't pause in the Mind Palace, so don't do it when there's enemies coming, like, proper shit me up. Like, when is it safe to do this?
Find a light to stand under and you're fine.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah,
did you enjoy all that?
Yeah, I enjoyed all that. I think I don't know. I don't want to overplay this because for the most part it was absolutely fine. There's a slight thing with, like, for me anyway, when it comes to Red Dead Redemption 2, where I started off and I wanted to run about like I was playing GTA and like run to markers, blah blah blah, and just sprint about the place like you always had in those games. And the game was like, whoa, Cecily, stop.
Yeah.
And it makes you slow down at its pace. And there was a while playing Red Dead 2, I was like, oh, this is fucking painfully slow. And then all of a sudden it just clicks and you sort of get into doing what it wants you to do and the way it wants you to do it, and it starts becoming rewarding. There was a bit with that. I think initially I found the Saga stuff when she's in her mind palace and you're like placing the photos and things like that, I find it quite tedious and annoying because I'm like, I'm actually not figuring anything out here. All I'm doing is pressing A and then you're telling me about it. There's no actual like detective solving because Saga's such a super cop that she just sort of figures it out by looking at a picture. But eventually, what I found that I enjoyed about that is it makes you slow down. So like if I was trying to tear through a bit, it would like, and I was like, where does this go? Where does this go? And like for a while, I would just be like smashing A in different places. It's like, this isn't working. So I'd actually stop and read it, and then I'd be like, oh, that matches up to there, and then I'd go and place it. So yeah, I ended up appreciating it because it would sort of force me to stop doing my normal sort of go-to in games, and it would sort of slow me down and engage in the game, because I don't think this game's as effective if you were to just sort of head down, sprint through it and not pay attention to stuff. This game is its brilliance, you only really see it when you stop and take it in, if that makes sense. And I ended up finding that the Mind Palace and the Writer's Room were opportunities for the game to sort of slow me down and
totally
make me engage with it.
Yeah, because there was a definite. I was trying to find the message, because you definitely had a moment where you text me and you were like, "I've just gone through We Sing, which is one of the greatest things I've ever seen in a game, and now I'm back to doing." And I couldn't remember what it was that you said you were back to doing that was monotonous.
Oh, what was I doing? Oh, No, it wasn't that because I had a bit of a huff with the game when I had sort of finished everything and I was going around doing collectibles, but that's my fault. I didn't
Ah,
have
here
to
we
do
go.
those.
After that absolutely stunning section of the game, the next bit could not be more opposite if it tried. Trudging around an area trying to solve a light bulb puzzle, getting totally lost, or while having random shadow enemies that you can't predict just punch you to the ground. That must be in the hotel, I think, at
Yeah,
first,
so
is it?
what I done, there was light puzzles when you're in Alan Wake, obviously, and I had gone through a whole section and realized that there's a whole bit where you go up some stairs, you go around some other stairs. There's like a bit where you go through a door that takes you out a place where the door isn't, if that makes sense.
Mm.
And I knew where I had to get to, and there was there was a shotgun, I think, or some sort of, or maybe it was the rifle. Anyway, it's in like a bar, and when you go up to the hotel entrance,
Yeah,
you've got to go and like look up the cocktail price that's written on the
yeah,
bar, and that gives you the code to get in. You need a light there, and I hadn't taken the light with me, so I'd gone through all of that trudging up there, and I just had to turn around and walk all the way back to get a light. And as I was trying to walk back to get a light to come back to have enough, I was getting shoved over by shadows
yeah.
and stuff like that,
They
and I was
did do
just like,
some sort of
"Fuck off,
respawning,
man!"
didn't they?
Yeah, I was just
Yeah.
like, "Let me go and get this light," and I just couldn't be arsed.
Is that the bit where it's like you had to go down a set of stairs, didn't you? But you
Mhm.
also had to like give it light or take the light away at the top of the stairs, then go down to the bottom of the stairs, then put the light into the light at the bottom. It was a
Yeah.
weird way round. You had to manipulate it because, as you could say, as you're saying, you could see over the edge of the balcony you're on, the rooftop bar that you're
Mhm.
supposed to be getting to at the start of the hotel. But there was never steps down there unless you did some kind of weird
No, and I'd also
manipulating
spent
fucky bit.
just before I text you, like honestly, like 10 minutes because you could see a word of power, or I could see like half of it hiding behind like a propped up bit of wood, and I was trying to see around it to get it, and I just couldn't figure it out, and I was getting annoyed because I'd been hanging around trying to figure that out for ages. So it was not only like a tedious bit that I had to turn around and retrace my steps, but I'd also been wasting time in that area, and I was just like, just let me progress. So then after
Yeah,
I did that, I just made sure I had every opportunity to take a light bulb with me. I was like picking it back up and
yeah,
carrying it. I think I had 4 by the end of it. I just didn't need them all, but I was like, I just don't
yeah,
want to do that
totally.
again.
But it does give you Wee Sing a lot earlier than I thought. I mean,
Yeah,
that
it's
could
pretty
easily
early.
like double up as a sort of a grand finale, but it's like mid game, just genius
Do you
out
know
of
what
absolutely nowhere.
the worst thing about We Sing is that it like we've kind of spoke about already. It's one of the most fantastic video game sequences that I can think of,
Same.
and there's no way to go back and just do it. Like
Yeah.
if I want to go and do that section again, because I'd love to like show Annie, but I'd have to replay it to get to that bit. There's no like
Well,
go back and select a level and just like retread
yeah.
it because that's awesome. And I don't know. I may
Well, at
get
least
back
it
to the
is
game
only
one.
halfway, I guess.
That's true.
So
Yeah, and I could just mainline Alan Wake. Um,
yeah, yeah, you could, yeah.
but yeah, that sequence is inch perfect. Like everything they do.
It's just wonderful. We talk about it more. We obviously already have, but
Mm-hmm.
for those listeners, we talk about that bit more, way more effusively as well in our Game of the Year podcast. So I don't want to retread old ground now. Just look forward to how we talk about that there because I was so high on it. I still am. I think it's just unbelievably cool.
It's just that I just love the way that this game sort of lays a trail of breadcrumbs with you, and if you pull it, sort of, if you start following a breadcrumb trail, like it's just layers upon layers of mysteries that are masterfully interwoven.
It's so yeah. If they're obviously going for a very David Lynch style storytelling method, and you know, they've absolutely nailed it whilst giving it this like auteur feeling of like this is you can just look at it and be like it's probably wanky to say, but it's such a Sam Lake kind of thing. You
Mm-hmm.
look at it and it's so definitively a Remedy game at this point
Yeah,
that and you'll see that even more after we've done Control as well, that like they are really honing this style of theirs to make it so like noticeably and quintessentially themselves, that I really love the way that they think
yeah,
about all the details in there. Like even earlier on when you were saying about Max Payne and Alex Casey and stuff, like I think I said to you quite early on, when you're in that TV station with Mr. Dorr and Alex Casey's there and Alan Wake's there, and Alex Casey's basically like dressed up like Max Payne. Sam Lake does the Max Payne like grimace face that
Yeah.
he did in the original games. It's just like so many little subtle nods and callbacks, and layered on top of, as you say, this really intriguing and confusing mystery. It's just so clever. I love so many parts of this game.
I love that Sam Lake exists. I think I cannot remember how deep we went into it in the next podcast, but you reminded when you talked about how he's such an auteur, and I think that I don't know. I think the games industry needs something like that. I think I said this in the next podcast, so apologies in advance if I did. But I was listening, and I can't remember what podcast it was, but I was listening to a podcast, and they were talking about how Kojima's is he in his 80s now?
What?
No, it was maybe Miyamoto they were talking
Yeah,
about.
I was going to say Miyamoto.
Miyamoto's in his 80s now, and they were talking. They actually mentioned auteurs and people that they were like, is there
71?
Okay,
so
that's
maybe
it.
they said he's in his 70s. Yeah,
But is a man that is also known for chain smoking. So, but yeah. Anyway, like we've got these like famous industry personnel. So like whether it's Miyamoto or whether it's Kojima and stuff like that, like do they have some sort of what's the word? I was going to say compulsion. Do they have a duty to try and bring in the next one? And I actually don't think that they do, because the next one is here, and it's Sam Lake. Like that is fantastic. Like his personality, his sort of style, it just drips off of this game, and partly because we've played so many of his games recently.
Yeah.
It's just so fun to see how much better he's got, and
Yeah.
what you get if you just put in some hard work. Like Max Payne to Max Payne 2, we spoke about how much better that was, and then
And how he'd had like writing,
yeah,
tutelage.
Well, I mean, you've played Control, but I think we may have that coming up later this year. We played Alan Wake earlier this year, and then Alan Wake 2 isn't just a step on from Alan Wake, it is like a night and day better game in all respects. Whether it's actually, I think you touched on this, so I think I'm nicking something from you, but I totally agree. It actually makes Alan Wake look amateurish in a way. Like it makes the story look like quite quaint by comparison.
Yeah,
and what he's actually managed to take from that and build into this is just stunning.
This is what this generation of games should be about. Like the things that they've done to adapt this game, almost to like transcend it from just being a game, because it has so much layering in the story and in the presentation, as we've just said, like them putting like full music videos and stuff to a song, to a heavy metal operatic saga song that's going on while you're shooting enemies, and having all of these clips of like real actors like in live action settings talking to your characters as you're moving along, and sound design and lighting, and just this is a truly next gen experience in more ways than just graphical power. Like it's people thinking about different ways to deliver video games, and it's just so cleverly done.
I think people bandy about like hyperbolic types, like I was saying earlier on, try and stay away from them a little bit, but like I genuinely think this game's a masterpiece, and we'll look back on this as like a seminal title that has really just moved on. Like I don't know why, but it always sticks in my memory. Listen to like, I think it was like a podcast beyond like 15 years ago. Listen to Greg Miller talk about Metal Gear Solid and how it was the first game that showed them that video games could be for adults, and that they weren't just Mario bopping about on monsters' heads, and they could be this bigger thing. To me, that this is the next version of that, if that makes sense. Like this is so on a different level. Like we've gone through like me being obsessed and writing my dissertation on Mass Effect because I think the story, and actually even by comparison, that story is becoming more and more simple seeming as time goes on. And this is just sort of take things to the next level. This is treating the audience with respect, allowing them to sort of I think it stands out for me partly because like we were speaking about it, like PlayStation games, the exclusive ones like to hold your hand and take you everywhere you want to go, and I think that's part of the success with Dark Souls and Demon Souls, and that these games are sort of the antithesis of that, and they're a real callback to like old arcade games that would kick your ass until you figured out how to get good at it, and they wouldn't like hold your hand. This game, I think, from a narrative perspective, is equally as much of a step on. It is not treating you like an idiot. I mean, you'll be better at it. You probably know film better than I do, but like there's directors that will bash over the head with things, and this one is not. It's happy and confident enough in itself to sort of sit and percolate and let you figure it out. And if you don't figure it out, then hopefully you still enjoyed it. But there is more there to figure out, and there's more there stuff that we haven't picked up on for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's just nice not to be treated like an idiot. And this is like an intelligent piece of work. That's also fun to play.
Yeah, very fun to play. It's. I mean, Control is fun to play as well because it's got a lot of crazy telekinetic powers and stuff. And I think again, the sequel to that is going to be something really special with the way that they've jumped from Alan Wake 1 to Alan Wake 2. If they make a similar sort of leap from Control 1 to Control 2, it's going to be absolutely like insanely good. But the gameplay on the surface of it, I guess the meat and potatoes of it is still quite straightforward. The combat is doesn't overcomplicate itself. You know, the leveling systems and the upgrades and stuff are not massively in depth. It's quite basic. Just make your guns do this stuff, or make Alan Wake's powers do this. But yeah, you're still for a lot of the time you are still just sort of shining your light on stuff and shooting things and trying to conserve ammo if you can and doing some puzzles. But that's the kind of thing that I want to do in a survival horror game anyway. It's classic horror game formula, just punctuated by this mind-bending narrative that blends fiction and reality together in both a very obvious, tangible way with real people talking to video game characters, and also making you question what parts of the actual game story are real, which of the characters really exist, how much of these things are happening for real. It's kind of gives them license to fuck with stuff as much as they want, and you almost won't question it because you go, oh well, maybe that's just Alan making it up or whatever.
At this point, I would not be surprised to find out come the end of this series that Alan Wake isn't real. And this is they're going to Darth Vader us, and at the end of the Star Wars trilogy, you realize it's not about Luke Skywalker. It's always been about Darth Vader. But we'll figure out that it's never been about Alan Wake. It's always been about Thomas Zane or something like that.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, there is definitely a reason why he keeps getting called Tom.
Yeah, has to be. It's not just that they're because it's always the old people. Like in the old folks home, the game encourages you to put it down to, they're just a bit confused. They're not.
Yeah,
they are not. They know more, and they're now in. Are they back from the dark? No, they're in the dark place now. It's because they go into the dark place after the rock concert, don't you? Down the beach
to get Saga out. Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's not out yet. She's still there.
So
because as we know from the second ending, she's in the writer's room with Casey and Alan.
What a game, man. What a bloody game it is. I'm going to say it now on this podcast so that I do it, because I've been saying it for months and months and months that I want to watch Twin Peaks. I'm going to watch at least an episode of Twin Peaks after this podcast finishes. I'm doing it.
I wonder how you get hold of it, because obviously I've got it on Blu-ray.
I thought it was on Amazon.
Oh, it might be. That would be nice and easy, wouldn't it?
Although Amazon have just added ads now. The fucks.
Oh, have they gone through with that now, have they?
Yeah. Is it Twin Peaks 1990?
It's to stream it. It's on Paramount Plus.
Oh, I've got Paramount Plus.
Hey-o!
Because I got that to watch Yellowstone, and I watched season 1, and I'm out of it now.
Okay, so you have to watch the pilot first, and then you watch season 1. So I'm assuming they've got the pilot on there.
Yeah, surely. I need to watch the Halo TV show as well since I've got it.
Series, right?
That's
coming out.
The most unmaster chief. He's a wisecracking shagger.
Is he?
Yeah, it's got his face out all the time. Loads of hair. He's like anything you think of Master Chief. The Paramount Plus TV show is the opposite of that.
See, with the amount of times that gaming adaptations in the visual entertainment media are shit, people need to realize now that I guess it's just the other way around. Alan Wake is like a video game adaptation of lots of different types of TV show and movies. So just enjoy it in that sense, and then that's where it's done well. Have you got anything else to add? I like the fact that the aiming works this time. It's not just Alan always aims over his right shoulder, which is excellent. He keeps this torch in one hand and crosses it over, rather than me having to continually switch back and forward like I did in the first game. Very pleased with that.
Yes. The only other thing I was wondering about is, do you remember back?
Where's that propane tank that you threw at an enemy that you?
Oh yeah, we said to mention that. I never managed to make the propane tank work. I'd always throw it, thinking, right, I'm getting overwhelmed here. I'd throw it, and then I'd try and shoot it, miss it, and then it would be dark. So, but well, I don't know where this damn thing is. So I ended up just not carrying them with me.
I love that. I love that also happened to me as well. I just threw it into like some bushes. I was like, oh shit! Bushes are everywhere though. I definitely killed the. When you're in the garage of the biker garage of those two dudes, and there's like a big enemy that I got him with a propane tank.
Oh,
I just
nice.
chucked it right in front of me, got him in one hit.
Oh, nice.
And I was trying to do it, and I did do it in the boss fight where they're coming out of the well, but I didn't realize at that point that I hadn't cleared all the dark things, so they were just looping and coming back over and over. That was a ball ache, that fight.
I was so close to death in that one.
Yeah, I went a long time without dying, like a really long time, to the point where I was like, why am I scared? Like I'm handling this game. It feels like I'm struggling, which I probably am, but the terror is not necessarily warranted because nothing has killed me yet for the entire game. And then I think it wasn't until Scratch chased me and I just went the wrong way that I started to die in it.
Some of them are good, but I will say if someone was to pin me down, hold a gun to my head and said, give me, bugs aside, one of the weak points about Alan Wake 2, I think a lot of the bosses were weak. The first boss was the naked dude, forgotten his name, the FBI agent. That was just fine.
The lead up to that was what it was all about, right?
Good,
just like continue going through this dark forest and you never quite know when he's going to appear and it's going to start. That happened again with the things in the well. Like over and over again, they kept fucking... It's like Dead Space, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like you hear the noises, you're seeing stuff going on, but you never quite get to the big bad. But then when you did, as you say, it was just a bit weak sometimes.
Yeah, the Cynthia boss fight was bad as well. I mean, I got one-shotted by her, and then I went full Alex Aldridge in the second time round and minced her without her even touching me. That was poor. I thought that I'm trying to think of the better one. The Scratch fight was pretty good.
Yeah, because you had to fuck around with the lights and stuff.
It did give me that horror. I can't remember if I mentioned this before to you or not, but there's a bit in the Playtale Requiem, the second one, where there's a guy chasing you and you've been absolutely battered. You're like hobbling about. And there's this guy looking for you. You've got to because it's mostly a stealth game, that game. You've got to hide from this person and then run up to this door and start cranking a crank that obviously makes loads of noise, which alerts him, and then he comes running for you. And you've got to run away, lose him again, come back and start cranking. Much like you've got to turn the lights as he's stunned. That gives me the Alien Isolation fear. Like I don't want to do this. Don't want to do this. Don't want to do this. Like it just gives me that horrible feeling in the pit of my stomach, and it just must be like this horrid fear that it elicits in me. Just knowing you've got to do something and someone's chasing you from behind. I suspect another game that would do that is the Wii U Zombie U game.
Yeah,
where you've got to input the code on the Wii U gamepad while the zombies are coming at you. That would do me.
Especially as in Alan Wake's sense, you couldn't use the flare, your classic Alan Wake 1 flare drop before you do something, because they make it very clear that Scratch doesn't give a shit about you shining a light on him or throwing a flare at him. He just tanks through it. It's just you've got to shoot him. I
thought they had changed the way the flares work ever so slightly. They seem to be a bit like the pipe bomb in Left 4 Dead, in that it would attract them.
Well, I guess the pathing of them was dumb enough that they just
never did in the first first Alan Wake. Yeah. The other thing I noticed was what were the guys' names that we had to look up, or you looked up? Ilmo?
The brothers.
Yeah. One of the brothers looks very much like the guy you're chasing in Alan Wake 1, who has been collecting pages from the book. And he ends up getting done by the dark place. Do you remember that? You're sort of chasing him through the woods, and you chase him up to this point, and you get a phone call, and you're like, "Where's my wife?" And he's like, "Come meet me."
Oh, the guy who's dressed up like a kind of hunter.
Yeah, he looks like one of those two to me. And then in the end, he gets taken with the dark. Or I think he gets killed, perhaps. Yeah, it kind of jumped him. I thought he was sort of dressed similar to one of the brothers.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
obviously the brothers of the Cult of the Tree. And he also in the first game has been collecting pages from your book. So I just thought, there's a similarity between those. Maybe that's where the Cult of the Tree came from.
The Cult of the Tree is mimicking the one in New York. Does he say that?
Oh yeah, you're
Does
right.
he say that they based that off of the fact that there was a cult in New York doing ritualistic murders at some point, and then the Cult of the Tree kind of copied that.
Right. Okay.
And they designed their logo based off of trees or something, didn't they?
Did they? Okay. Oh yeah, someone does mention that. Yeah, you're right.
Because he just sort of scribbles it on a bit of paper.
Mm-hmm.
What else was I going to say? I wanted to mention, of course, the OP rifle that I talked to you about, where if you upgrade the Saga? Yeah, if you upgrade her rifles where it does you stand still and it will kind of always target an enemy and it will hit their weak points, and then you add that to it will shoot through an enemy even if you haven't removed their darkness shield with the light. I got to a stage later in the game where if I heard an enemy, I would just stand still, get my gun out, just randomly aim it round the screen until it would almost like slow time down and make this like noise, which I assumed meant I've got one in my sights, and then I just press the button and they would die in one hit.
I stuck with the crossbow
come near me.
a long time. I absolutely loved landing headshots with that crossbow. It was so good.
You got 1,000 Gs, didn't you, on this? Yeah, so you obviously upgraded that all the way. I didn't upgrade any of the guns all the way, so I was really fucked off that I can't go back and do this.
Must have upgraded that all the way, yeah.
I gave up on that as soon as I got the rifle because I was so sick of I obviously didn't read, because somewhere it does tell you, but I obviously didn't read that part where sometimes if you shoot a crossbow it will break. I didn't read that part. All I read was you can pick it up out of enemies, and I kept not being able to do that. I was like, well, this is shit. And I can only hold 4 of these bullets in one inventory. Well, I was really struggling with inventory space.
That's what shifted me. I think I did most of the game, or a lot of the game, with the crossbow, but what ended up shifting me was the inventory space, and that you could only hold 4 crossbows in one inventory slot, whereas you could just hold a whole stack of bullets. And I was just like, I'm getting more bang for my buck in terms of inventory space here.
Definitely.
Bit disappointed they didn't Resident Evil us and let us Tetris up the inventory, because there was a couple of guns I wanted to turn on their side and they just wouldn't let me.
Yeah, the fact they didn't even give you a button for moving and you had to press X on it and then go down to move before you move it was annoying. Because, I mean, come on, Resident Evil 4 had a different button to just move it in 2003 or whatever it is. So, come on, boys. That was a shame. But yeah, you're right. I wanted to flip it around as well. And I was still doing the management of it, like guns at the top, then the bullets in the same order that the guns are in, and then grenades, and then health every time.
I like that they tied stuff in. So I think we mentioned the painkillers from Max Payne were in there.
Yep.
They used, although they didn't have them as a collectible, they had the thermos flasks again as the save points. We haven't mentioned.
I enjoyed that. And I also liked that when you had saved it, it went from the thermos being over, and then it would be like a cup of it had been poured out and was ready to drink. That was awesome as well. Like you just had a little coffee break.
I also liked that they sort of in the saga stuff, they would make you sort of bring your safe place to life in a lot of places. So you would have to go and obviously fight through danger. There was often wolves going around, and you would have to pull the generator before it was safe. I enjoyed that because it added a bit of a, I don't know, it just added a bit more fear to it. That if you're wanting to get in there and save the game, and you're just like, I need to do this quickly.
It's going to make a bloody loud noise, and if I mess it up, then they get
I like that. We haven't mentioned the caretaker yet, which is probably worth mentioning. He's very mysterious.
Yeah, he's mysterious in Control as well. He's in that a lot.
So there's a bit where, because I think you told me he was in Control, so I was kind of keeping an eye on him, just like one of my beady eyes on him. But you pick up I don't know, it's some sort of voice log I was listening to, and Artie's talking to someone saying, and he's like he obviously works for the FBC, and he's like, oh, or he was leaving or something like that, or being chucked out, or something had happened, and he's like, oh, I think I'm going to go to Bright Falls and try and get a job there.
No way.
Yeah, which I thought was
Well,
cool.
that does work then, because yeah, he's in the bureau in
Mhm.
control. So yeah, he obviously does go from there to there, which makes sense as well. It makes him less of like a what I assumed was some sort of omnipotent kind of floaty
That's
ghost
kind
man.
of what I got a feeling of him, because he's sort of
Yeah,
he knows more than he's letting on, and he's
he
in
knows.
both the
Yeah,
dark place, and he actually uses mop and bucket to move between the two
yeah.
dark places and stuff like that. He's singing a song on the stage that you meet the mayor later on as
Ah,
well.
Mayor Center, brilliant.
Love that.
That was excellent.
And then also we haven't mentioned that I'd quite like to touch on is just the weird members of the water community. Like people just standing in odd places.
Yeah. Just at night time, they were just like standing on street corners, just looking at nothing. And there's that one that I said to you on the one as you walk over the bridge, sort of to get towards the coffee world. There's just one just right on the edge of town, and I went right up in. It was like shining a torch in her eye, like say something.
Hello.
But yeah, that's so like Twin Peaks. I think
It's
just
the other one
random
that
weird people.
wasn't. She was just down the road from that lady, just standing in the middle of nowhere on the fixed road. That you like when you first go to Watery, she's like standing when it's not raining, like she can feel rain coming. You know, that's what people do when they put their arms out. It's like, I think I can feel rain. She's sort of doing that, and then you come back later in the game after it's been raining, and she's on her hands and knees, like facing a puddle. It's really odd.
I'd love to. Yeah, I'd love to see like a clip of what everybody's doing, or just go back and properly look at them again. Because obviously, when you're trying to get through the game, you sort of see them as a curio and go, "What the fuck?" But I'd love to just go properly look at what everybody's doing, because yeah, there's some weird shit going on in that place.
I'm gonna have to re-up my Spotify subscription so I can listen to the music, because the music is all brilliant, just about.
I did find it quite funny that in Alan Wake's like end of chapter stuff, they kept playing the same song about it being looped, which was quite funny. But some of that stuff was okay. But I mean, the metal song is so good.
I've listened to it so much now, though. I'm almost sick of myself of it already.
Yeah. I'm kind of getting that way as well. Yeah. We haven't. I mean, we kind of have mentioned how much this game terrified me and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But I think one of the good parts of that is just the enemies in this game versus the way that they are in Alan Wake 1. So in Alan Wake 1, they were kind of scary, but you would be walking in an area, you'd be walking through the Bright Falls woods or whatever, and then it would always pan out and be like, here's where the guys are coming from, and then it would be like slow motion, and they would then run towards you slowly. Whereas this time, obviously, in Alan Wake's part, they were everywhere and nowhere at the same time. But in Saga's, like the Taken in the woods, the way that they move, like the ones who keep running back and forward and throwing stuff at you, and the ones that just sort of teleport, sort of really jerky movements, like zigzagging towards you, like really, really scary stuff. Again, I hardly ever got done by any of this, but it felt like you had like so little time to react and prepare yourself, because they just came at you so fast. And there'd be wolves as well that would obviously just run away. Well, unless you did that crazy shot that I did with the spinning, which means nothing to anyone listening, so that's gone. But like just far better enemy design in this game than in the original, like to the point where the original's kind of nothing. They're just there, whereas now they're a real threat every time because they're so unpredictable.
Yeah. I still like that, and I was trying to think of an example while you were talking there, because I'm going to need to give them an example now, but I just can't. It's when they like shout really weird stuff as well when you're walking around. I like that they still kept that, because it's like, again, like I just love I don't know, it's like a sort of a palette version of like salt and sweet. Like they just sort of mesh. They're doing this really funny thing, but at the same time they're bloody scary.
Yeah.
It sort of elevates both at the same time.
I can't think. We couldn't think of this on the first one as well, like the kind of things they were saying. But yeah, I swear somebody was talking about Coffee World quite a lot. I don't know why, but I really enjoyed this game's obsession with coffee. It was quite funny that it just kept going on about coffee in loads of different places, like the diner and the Tim Breakers offering you coffee, and then you go to Coffee World. And
I'm actually going to have to see if I can find something, because I love that coffee mug that I showed you that my friend bought.
Yeah, I put that on my birthday list, but I don't know if I can wait that long.
It's just It's just, for me, it's too small. I need a bigger mug. So I need to find something though, because I need to find some sort of merch for this game to make myself just remember it.
I tried to look at the Remedy store, and the merch for Alan Wake is shit. I'm
Yeah.
tempted to just get some kind of tattoo, but I don't know what I want.
Tattoo would be good.
Get some kind of deer head or something,
Oh yeah.
or a coffee mug. Just get the coffee mug tattooed on you. I like coffee. Fuck it, that's what I'm gonna do. There we go.
Yeah, he's done it. He's done it.
Gonna get an Oh Dear Diner coffee mug tattooed on myself. There we go.
What a game. So good Alex gets a tattoo of it.
Yep. Remedy rules.
Have we anything else for anything else, Alex?
What else did I have? Oh, that's part of the story. Boss fights, collectibles, aiming. Oh, obviously I like that the map for Saga seemed to be like, it was quite big when you went to certain places. Like Bright Falls had quite a lot going on, but even though we said that we wouldn't have hated playing like the prototyped version of the game where it was like open world and you collect things in the daytime and then you go to the night. I'm glad they didn't.
Yeah,
They
I think so.
just go straight to that again for this sequel, because I guess they could, and they had more time, they had more budget. I'm glad they didn't just go, right, let's go back and make the open world game we tried but failed to make the first time. They actually just, again, crafted something that's just unlike anything else.
It's just a truly unique game, and I think that's why, and like I've said it before, but the uniqueness and the respect it gives its audience, I think, are the things that jump out to me and sort of stick with me the most. It is incredibly comfortable being itself, and itself is wholly unique, and that's just so much better for it.
It's a rare thing that a game doesn't wear out its welcome and makes me want to keep playing, and I'm very disappointed when it's over that there isn't any more. Like the journey to completion is not the only reason that I'm still playing it. It's because I just don't want to stop playing it.
Yeah.
And this has also then done that to elevate Remedy as a studio even further in my estimations, where whatever they do next, I cannot wait.
Yeah,
and I
cannot wait.
Please don't have any arseholes working there, and please don't do anything stupid. Like, please don't let Sam Lake be some kind of abuser or an enabler of abusers. Please don't let them start doing predatory like NFTs or fucking microtransactions in any of the DLC. Like, they've almost done it with the digital only, but that's not their fault. Like, don't spoil our beautiful boys from Finland. Let's just hope that they stay pure and brilliant for as long as possible, because they fucking rule.
They do, and they're one of the there are a couple developers that everything they do is immediately on my radar, but this is one of them. Every time Remedy have a new game coming out, until they mess it up, I'm definitely playing it.
Yeah, look out for
they've got me
in Control later this year.
Yeah, I can't wait for Control, and I'm going to try and give some Quantum Break. Some try my own time. Must be on Games Pass, that game, right?
Not sure.
I'll check it out, and I'll report back.
It may have had a boost in price because of this, but I don't know if it's going to be that expensive to get hold of. If you need to.
But next up, we're leaving Bright Falls behind, and we're moving to a tropical island that is undergoing a freeze, Alex.
Oh yeah, after the Game of the Year, where we will definitely talk more about
Game of the Year's next.
I wonder what will win. Yes.
The next game, we're heading back to Donkey Kong Land and Donkey Kong's Tropical Freeze.
The game David has already beaten basically in a day.
Pretty much in a day, yeah.
Yeah. Holy shit.
Loved it.
Cannot wait to talk about that. That's 10 years old. That's why we're talking about Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze.
How many Donkey Kong games have we discussed? One, Country,
third.
And two, and then we did the third, was it? And then
we
just give up on
two in a double feature, and then we played three, and we're thoroughly sick of it.
Yeah, and it's not a good game though. That's the one with the baby, right?
Yeah, and I kept saying to you, like, Tropical Freeze is the best one after these originals.
Gonna have to try and get a hold of the one before Tropical Freeze now to continue my fix.
Yeah, just get it on Dolphin.
Yeah.
But But yeah, that's next. And then after that, it's February Film Fest time. Which one of those are we doing first? Are we doing Batman or RoboCop first?
Don't know. What are you in the mood for? I don't have the RoboCop game,
okay,
but I've got the Blu-ray.
Okay.
I've bought Batman Arkham Asylum,
Maybe it's that one first then.
but I don't have any of the movies.
Most of those will be on streaming, surely.
You would think so.
The Batman, I'm pretty sure.
So I'm ready to go, whatever. And it's currently on. Well, you said you got it on Xbox for £15, didn't you? So I think that'll be.
I sent you. What, RoboCop?
Yeah, or did that expire?
Yeah. No, I doubt it.
It probably hasn't. So I'll probably get it on Xbox. It's $19.99 on Steam or £15. Well, it's $19.99 on CD keys for a Steam code.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
but I can get it for £15 on Xbox.
Version, but yeah.
Even though I'm living it up with a Steam Deck, I'm keen to keep my library in one place. I'm going to try and be selective with what I play on my Steam Deck. I'm on the last level of the Warhammer 40k Space Marine game.
Are you playing that on Steam Deck?
Yeah.
Nice.
Played it a little bit today on Steam, just with a controller, and got to the last level. But the last level it's not fun, so I'm thinking I might just watch the cutscene on YouTube and think, right, I've done this. I'm moving on.
No one's going to ask you.
No
test if you've completed it.
No, exactly. No one cares.
Yeah.
And that brings us to the end of another episode of the A Winner Is You podcast. If you liked what you heard, and even if you didn't, why not give our numbers a bump by subscribing to our podcast feed of choice? You don't even have to listen. You could just subscribe and then go to Twitter and give Alex abuse. Or, if you prefer to imbibe your podcast in a visual format, you can head on over to YouTube and search A Winner Is You podcast, where you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. If the podcast isn't enough for your bi-weekly dose of A Winner Is You chattery, you can also follow us on the website formerly known as Twitter, @WinnerIsYouPod, and you can even send us an email to tell us how wrong we are about our gaming opinions by writing to awinnerisyoupod@gmail.com. Alex and I also have Twitter, @DavidSmiley1 and @SuperThrillix, respectively. It's not respectively, because I did Alex first, then me, and then did me, then Alex. So, figure out who's who. It'll be a surprise for you. We also have TikTok now, so find us over there. Just search A Winner Is You Pod, and we will pop up. Any housekeeping, Alex, or are we done?
What was the video game? The Video Game Hall of Fame did a 2023 pod. This won't be out. It'll be finished by that point. No housekeeping.
No housekeeping. Buy
No.
Sega Force. I don't know if we've ever said that on this podcast. The magazine.
Oh yeah, buy Sega Force Mega. Yeah, we write for that. Honestly, we're not just saying that the Wii U is better than the Saturn all the way through it. It's genuinely a celebration of Sega.
We hate Sega.
People than just us.
That's why we write for a Sega magazine. On that bombshell, I've been David. He has been Alex, and we have been A Winner Is You, and I'm out.
Keep gaming.